Hey, what's going on, everyone? Check out what's coming up this week on Legacies.
And we haven't changed those three brands for the past 5 years. We went from $1 to $100 million with those three brands.
Shooting rifles at these drones.
Our timeline split off at some point, like last year, again for the 50th time this century, and it's just we're living in a complete fucking wonderland. It's insane. Yeah.
This can help so many people with stigma and understanding, but more importantly, guys, cannabis is a natural extension of life's refined enjoyment.
Hey, welcome to Legacies, everyone. I'm your host, Tom Ritchie, joined by Wesley the Wizard Bulls. Wes, good morning.
Good morning. How are
Morning. I'm good. You're stressed. You got a lot of shit on the go, bro.
you? Quite a bit. It's the holiday episode. We got the holiday episode coming out next week, so we're got a lot to do before then, but it's coming along really well. So
And all that falls on you, the editor. Jeez, like just everything. Well, let's first remind everyone that Legacies is powered by Breadstack. Retailers, it's probably time for an upgrade. I always like to say it is time for an upgrade. I saw a great post this morning on LinkedIn. I forget who it was by, but actually, it was Joey Bravo, Respect Your Region podcast. And he was talking about marketing and how, like, quit fucking bitching about Meta, quit bitching about the contextually US side, Canadian side. But he raised some good points. And one of them was around dispensaries. And, you know, Google is your perfect opportunity. Now, I don't know how that works quite in Canada, but obviously, you know, search results mean something. You know, if we're tying that back to Breadstack, like we've seen this. We've worked with a number of brands, and they just don't rank on a result. Our brand partners, you know, they've gotten the bonus of ranking quite high because, you know, the High Flyer is an SEO juggernaut. Thanks to you.
there's a ton of brands that does, and I get it. A lot of these smaller brands are great at growing cannabis, and they're you know dipping their toe into some of these other areas of business, and you know it's a challenging one unless you have someone else on your team or who knows what they're doing with, you know, building a website out. It's a challenging piece, but it's extremely important. Nothing is not. I don't want to say worrying, but it's extremely concerning to me when I type in a brand or a product in Google, and it's great that those dispensary listings come up, obviously, because that's purchasing the product, right? But
yeah, for sure.
I'd love to see that brand's website in at least the top 3 results, so that, you know, I can grab some information on them before going directly to the product, right? It's just, you know,
exactly.
Well,
I think there's lots to do, but, you know, to your point is it's a scramble, right? There's always so much going on. Smaller teams, tight budgets, I get it. And it can be death by 1,000 cuts. I say this a lot, right? Which is, you know, fee for this, fee for that. And, you know, excise stamps. We'll talk about that as well.
Every time you say Joey Bravo, I just continually think Johnny Bravo, because I watched that show as a kid.
It's Bravo, though.
Oh, is it Bravo?
Yeah.
Well, I still hear Johnny Bravo.
yeah, Johnny Bravo. What was that?
I can't remember what his tagline was, but it was like, "Oh, mama," or something like that.
and just for our viewers, I have not adopted the 51st state idea concept by wearing a Blackhawks jersey. This is my Griswold Christmas jersey.
You're full treasonous today. You're full treasonous.
Hold on, come on now. I even got my moose mug that they use on the Christmas vacation.
Oh my God.
That will be getting used. I thought about putting my coffee in it this morning. I'm like, nope, that's reserved for...
Maybe when you don't have a $2,000 laptop sitting in front of you. That might be a better idea.
Yeah, right. That's reserved for rum and eggnog. Rum and eggnog. A huge Christmas vacation fan. Obviously, we went through favorite Christmas movies last week. I feel I'm not Jewish, and I feel we need to pay some more homage or respect to the Jewish side as well with Hanukkah. Hanukkah, are you familiar with Hanukkah? Like, I have the Torah. I have not read all of the Torah. It's an English version of the Torah. But one of the stories that always fascinated me was the story around Hanukkah. So it's sundown. Forgive me, Jewish listeners, if I fuck this up. Correct me if I'm wrong. But sundown on the 25th, and it lasts for, I think it's 8 nights. And the reason it's 8 nights is because the Maccabees, which were known as the rebels, were driven into this cave. I'll call it a cave. It could be a house. I don't know. But anyways, they only had enough consecrated oil to last technically for one night. So to burn and, light the room, light the cave, whatever it was. And miraculously it burnt for 8 days. And that's where, your menorah comes from with your 8 days. Right. I've always been fascinated by the Jewish religion. I think they're a lot deeper. They get a lot deeper than Christianity in a lot of cases, and their conviction, I think, I can respect that, but I don't know, spin the dreidel. Maybe we can spin the dreidel. I don't have a dreidel to spin. Yeah, I don't know.
Man, I can't wait to get ripped apart in the comments for.
Oh, we're gonna get just roasted. But know that I respect it. I understand it, and a lot of our friends are Jewish.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Christmas puns. I want to touch on Christmas puns. What is the worst? Yeah, as they relate to cannabis.
Oh, I have it. Yeah. I already have it. I already have it.
Okay,
if
so
I see.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
I can't. I'm racking my brain going, what are the ones?
This is the one.
I saw a horrible play, following on the heels of Hanukkah. There was a horrible one that I've seen before. Hanukkah? Hanukkah or something?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know that. This is the one that if I see another one of these, I'm going to be like, you like, have some originality, people. Come on. Holidays. DAZE, the holidays, right? Like I get
I'll
it.
Have a green Christmas this year.
Yeah.
I don't mind them. For me, it's like whatever. If these were, back in my old days of advertising, if a Fortune 500 company we were working with came to us and said, we want to come up with some Christmas puns and they were related to the industry then, I'd be like, no.
I should say it's one thing to do, like, Instagram or LinkedIn post it. When I'm seeing email campaigns going out and they've all got the same word in them, because I'm on a couple of newsletters and stuff. And
Light up your holidays, get lit this holiday. Yeah. There's some good ones. I've seen, actually, one that, respected decibel with Quest. There was one that I liked. I think I shared it with our team. I just did a screenshot of it. And it was very simple. I love simple, right? And it was mistletoe with a joint under it, a pre-roll. And I think it only said something like, pucker up. That's it. I liked it. I was like, I like that one. Clean, simple, to the point, no puns. So, Adam, I don't know if you were overseeing that, but we'll give you kudos. The team gets kudos on that one. That's one of the ones that I've liked so far.
Yeah.
Dude, why'd you get me onto the whole? I mean, I couldn't avoid it, but you got me onto the whole. See what the fuck's going on in Parliament with Freeland resigning, and
I have no idea what you're talking about.
And then, you have no idea. You spend hours. You don't you live stream House of Commons sometimes? Like,
well, I had to that day when because I was on Twitter and the rumbling
Netflix takedown.
the rumbling started, and I was like, I have to watch this live, and I'm watching them go through this, and I'm like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's absolutely asinine. I have no words.
I think what startles me is I am not a pro Freeland person. She has been in my bad books for a long time for a number of reasons, the least of not which trying to strip me of my firearms, not weapons, firearms, because I love sport shooting. That was one of and I realized, it takes, it's all of them. She was spearheading a lot of that. But anyways, I find that there's so many because of the shift, right? So when the news comes out, it's, Trudeau had asked her to resign, and then she puts her letter out, and that's kind of a slap in the face, but also covering her ass a little bit, I think. But it's the comments that I've seen where they're supporting her. It's like, this happened to Chrystia Freeland, and good on her. She's going to come out ahead. Blah blah. You forget the last 9 fucking years, like, of what's been going on and her appointments and her portfolio and. Okay, she's done some decent stuff in some areas, and I am not a political expert when it comes to this, and I need to be more because this is our country. These are our freedoms, but get over it. I'm sorry. I saw that, and I'm like, fucking bye-bye. Next. Like, please, Trudeau, resign.
Well, yeah, it kind of blows my mind too. And again, I really do need to learn more about politics and stuff like that as well. But it blows my mind right now that it seems to all be stemming on this could be solved by one person calling for that election, but right?
Is this someone that wants to keep their pension?
That's from what it seems like. At least that's what I'm hearing. Again, I don't know the
I'm
logistics
sorry,
behind
but
all of it,
Singh
but
pissed me off too. You know, he
Fuck.
gets on camera that day and it's like all options are on the table. Fuck off with your political bullshit, your statements your PR team told you to say while you're on camera. Just straight shoot it, right? Quit trying to protect your pension. You wear a rollie, you drive a Mercedes, you're fine, bud. You're fine. Just call it.
Yeah.
Call it. I don't know. It's just, again, and then I start to wonder, like, there's so much as I was paying attention to, I think it was CBC had live reporting and stuff going on. And I was even listening to that while I was commuting a little bit. And the thing that did dawn on me, I was like, they're mentioning all these different positions in government and what they're accountable for. And I'm going, I don't know enough about this. Are they purposely doing this though? Like, they barely discuss this in school anymore, like almost at all. And they barely touched on it when I was going through school and high school. I don't know, man. These, what is that study? Poli-sci? Political sciences?
political science.
Yeah. Why do they call it sciences? Is it that complicated? Seriously though, I'm like, why? I don't know. I just, and I see people even that we network with or we know within the industry, very strong, very smart individuals, both male and female on both sides, with very good argument as to why liberals should be in, why PCs should be in. I'm sorry. I'm at the point of being fed up. I won't forget COVID. I won't forget any of that. I won't forget the Iron Fist ruling. It's to me, we just need a break. And I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but I'm done. I'm done. And believe me, I am not naive enough to think that, oh, the PC party or Polyev or any of that is going to, I don't trust any politician, not one. So they're all in the same category for me. Even some cases, you got to pick the lesser of two evils, I guess. I don't know. I'm lost on it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
I think a little bit of a small glimmer of hope has kind of come out of some of this with the federal excise stamps.
Yes. And that was, so that's not CCX, it's CC, what is the one that was kind of leading the charge?
Cannabis Council of Canada, C3.
C3, thank you. Great work. We're still not there. It's not enough, but glimmer of hope. It was actually included in the economic false statement, was it not?
Yeah.
It was included there. So are they 100% or
no?
It's
no.
just
This is not and this is Jonathan Wilson again. Thank you for everything you're doing. You're still posting, and we're still seeing all your stuff.
And we're still sharing. Yeah, we'll support.
The thing he pointed out is this is great. It's a glimmer of hope, but the wording used in that is they will explore the opportunity. So there's no plan. There's no current plan. There's no strategy right now. It's worded as we've heard you. This is hopefully it's not just something as we've heard you and that's kind of enough to appease you for now, and we'll fuck off after that. But it does seem like the goal of removing the provincial individual excise stamps and having a federal level one or a single one for everything could be huge for people who operate and
massive for
product
operators
across all these different
massive
provinces.
For operators.
Yeah.
You'll recall like Mendo and one of the beautiful things about Mendo is the ability to take a product or brand nationwide basically overnight, right? And part of that was they alleviate that stress and that pain. They'll handle all your excise taxes, or stamps, like you deal with it. But something deep inside me always questions the government and how does it benefit them? There's got to be some benefit to the government when it comes to this. I don't know what it is yet. I'm sure it'll be uncovered. There's obvious benefit for the industry, but we know our government, and they do not always make changes just to help their people or companies or corporations.
I can only imagine that from a logistical standpoint, it could make things easier for them. Having to not deal with all these different provincial stamps themselves. I don't know. It's sure they still get paid on every single stamp, whether it's a provincial one or a federal level one. But I imagine the logistics of dealing with all those different stamps is easier.
It should be. And back to who was it? I don't know if it might have been Jonathan as well, mentioning something about the argument of you haven't filed how many stamps or something to do with the CRA and excise stamps, taxes, whatever. And they're like, we know that. And he's like, why do I need to file it if you already know?
Right.
Like if you already know, it's the same with income taxes and stuff like this, right? they know because the employer has to report for your T4. They already know, but you have to go through the rigmarole of filling everything out and reconciling your taxes. For the vast majority, probably 80% of the population, it's straight up, this is my income. I have no deductions, nothing. Here's what it is. But CRA, right? They don't care about those people that are straightforward taxes. They know. What they want to see is those self-employed, those other ones that have write-offs or own investments or investment properties, capital gains, and they know that shit. So they will leave everyone else alone, but you'll start getting those letters, right? It's time to file your taxes. You're late on your taxes, blah, blah, blah. They're segregating us, right? They're not sending those letters to the straight-up employed that get a single T4 that don't have any write-offs or anything like that. Anyways, any updates on the drones? Did we talk about the drones last week? You and I have talked about the drones. Now you've got me on this whole fucking conspiracy thing. And is there a lost nuclear warhead somewhere in the sea? I don't even know what's going on anymore.
No, we haven't talked about the drones because there's a lot of mixed information and I think misinformation on these drones over New Jersey. To be clear, it seems like, New Jersey isn't the only one. It's definitely the one that's concentrated the most.
Seems to be worldwide, isn't it?
But it's really strange that the government, I think both the White House has made a statement about it, the DOD has made a statement about it, all saying these are definitely not military, these are definitely not ours. They're also able to say that they're not from other countries, so it's really weird. And then
how do they know that?
But exactly, and then they're having classified meetings that they won't reveal the nature of to say, but they're still coming out and saying they're probably hobbyist drones. And it's
hobbyist drones.
Some of these fucking drones are the size of cars.
I was gonna say, come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Something's going on. I have no idea. That's really why we haven't talked about it, because we're probably just fueling more of the misinformation by talking about it, because there's really no solid information.
There
is
no
point.
Information. Government knows something. They're not going to tell us exactly what's going on.
People of New Jersey are panicked going outside at night, and no one's getting any answers. It's just we're living
shooting rifles at these drones.
Our timeline split off at some point, like last year, again for the 50th time this century, and it's just we're living in a complete fucking wonderland.
Oh
it's
my
insane.
God. Bizarro world. We're in a matrix. Anyways, enough of that stuff. We've got an amazing episode coming up. We got Jackie McCaskill talking about her new book, co-founder of Sheesh. Then we've got, I'll always refer to him as Nico Dank of Cannara, Nicholas Sosiak. But
some of my favorite resin comes from those guys. Resin, yeah.
Some great brands. We're going to learn about marketing, the history, the story behind Cannara, what's making them successful, why they're the horse to bet on. Like any of these stock pundit type people, they're always I caught one. I'll have to ask Nicholas this. Nico, sorry, I'm not going to call you Nicholas. Nico Dank to me. Why it was the front runner. So out of an analysis of 6 stocks, they go green, red, whatever, check mark, X. I forget which one it was. Might have been the Dales report. I forget. Anyways, Cannara made it into the fold, right? And it was like, this is a great stock. This is an opportunity. The cash, capital's good, EBITDA's good, everything's good. But as I've always said, when you've got an accountant type or a CPA at the helm, chances are you're doing fairly well.
Hey, and when you've got great branding and you market yourself, it seems to help a little bit as well.
Oh, yeah. They seem to have that on lockdown. But anyways, we'll invite Jackie on right after this break.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Jackie McCaskill, author of Chill, The Wine Lover's Guide to Cannabis, and co-founder of Sheesh, my favorite sodas. And I'm not just saying that.
No, not at all.
Wes knows this. Jackie,
Delicious.
Thanks for joining Legacies. How you doing?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, we've been excited. I will admit I haven't gotten all the way through your book. I felt like a college freshman. I'm like, oh shit. And this was like Sunday night. But I made it quite a way through. Smother mother.
Mother. I do have that. Yeah.
So I'll give you I love that. Listen, there's a lot of great references in there. We're going to get to understanding, the inspiration behind the book, why you felt that it was now time. I always wonder with authors sometimes. I'm like, how and when and where, but also how did you get the energy, the time, the thoughts to put it together? And we'll get to that. But we appreciate you joining us. Super excited. Been a big fan of Sheesh since I ever got my hands on it. And let me just share first and quickly, I'll cover that THC logo up, right? I had
Nice.
not had a chance to get my hands on the Tangerine Dream. So when we did the holiday special, you guys graciously came in as a sponsor for that. And Matt's like, I'll drop some product off. I'm like, right on. He brings Tangerine Dream. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't been able to get my hands on this forever. Because why? You're always sold out. Like always sold out.
I know. That's a good problem and bad problem all at the same time.
Good and bad. Okay,
Yeah.
let's first understand, how does this wine enthusiast, can we call you a
Yeah.
wino? Is that possible? Is that even a name anymore?
It
People
is.
use that?
It
Okay,
sticks.
so someone
It sticks.
very astute in the alcohol and beverage market and sector decide they're going to come into cannabis. Like, I know the story, but we want to share with our audience because it's very intriguing. And I remember your first foray into the industry and the company you landed with. So let's start with that. What was your experience in alcohol first? Let's go through that.
Sure. I started my experience with alcohol with the LCBO. I was a buyer with them for about 12 years, covering every category from beer to coolers to table wines, and ended my career there as a senior buyer for vintages wines, which is the premium section.
Sounds like travel.
There was some travel.
Yeah.
It was an awesome job. Fantastic. And, I learned so much. I was surrounded by such amazing people, some of which are masters of wine and sommeliers. And I primarily focused on the business aspect, but through that process became super passionate about wine. When I resigned from the LCBO, I started into consulting, and it was primarily to help suppliers that wanted to come into the Canadian marketplace, understand the government environments, and find success here. And a lot of NPD, new product development, came from that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Tom, it got to a point where I recognized that innovation is my true passion, utilizing category management expertise. But, the innovation in alcohol was waning. If I had been asked one more time to help create a spritzer, I would seriously.
I was just gonna ask. Please tell me you're not the brains behind White Claw.
No, mind you, that is a work of art. How well that's done. But yeah,
I just love all the
spritzers,
memes I see about people drinking White Claws.
right? It's a mastermind though. That group. So Anthony Von Mandel, he's the president, kind of founder. They started with Mike's Hard Lemonade, right?
Oh, okay.
They did Palm Bay,
Yeah.
and then White Claw. Like, this is a triple threat of awesomeness.
Yeah.
is
What a
what they've done.
juggernaut. Yeah, geez.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And in
it's
those,
impressive.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Within that, because that's one of the areas I didn't really understand necessarily. Did it come with brand first? Because we see this in the cannabis industry, and I want to echo it into cannabis, where brand formation, then category. So, we're going to come up with this, and we can just fit in here. So obviously, you're talking Mike's Hard Lemonade, which is out of the gate, huge success, right? Everyone has it. You got a Mike's Hard? No, Mike's Hard, I have fucking beer. What are you talking about? Right? And then, but within that, like that's a hard lemonade, but that seemed to pave the way to spritzers in a way, at least in my mind.
I could see that natural extension for sure. I mean, Mike's Hard Lemonade was a disruptor, and the purpose of it was created to disrupt the beer occasion, right? Your palate, you mix it in. It was targeted a little differently than the wild berry coolers we all had when we were young. So, they've definitely achieved that. They have a blueprint that works. When it comes to spritzers, I think when they entered, they saw a white space, and it was a natural extension to their portfolio, and they made the most of it and killed it. They've done amazing. But yeah, back to this, it's, I was getting fatigued with the innovation in the space at the time. And I shared this with you guys, but it's the truth. I had purchased a Peloton, and they dropped it off at the front, and I thought, because it had wheels in the back, I would lift it and roll it. Anyway, during that process, I pulled my back out pretty badly, and ended up, trying everything over the counter, talked to my doctor, RMTs, all of those kind of things, chiropractor, it ended up hesitantly that CBD really helped me, like
Wow.
real high concentration dose.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it works for everybody, but for me,
Sure.
it was
Yeah.
game changing. And that kind of got me down a significant rabbit hole of research and passion and understanding, what it was. And I was on the dock at my cottage. One of my best friends was there with me, and she looked and she's like, Jack, why are you not getting into cannabis? Right? Like, Tom, what is cannabis at the forefront, what is Canada at the forefront of globally?
Well, other than cannabis?
Yeah, like we have second in mustard seed production.
Natural resources. I mean,
Right.
no one ever talks about that, right? Natural resources. Who? Canada.
A political
Really?
laughing stock, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then there's that. But good point from your friend. I mean, you're dominating in that in the BevAlc space and having fun doing it, even though interest is waning, but still.
Yeah, it was a thing. And what I love most about wine is provenance, people, and place. Right?
Yeah.
That experience. And as I researched and learned and spoke to people, I recognized that cannabis is the same.
Yeah.
Like there are provenance. Like there's like I read about the Hayes brothers in the 70s in California. That's not that different than the E&G Gallo brothers, right? Ernest and Julio Gallo, the largest wine company in the world, one of the two. I mean, out of California, same thing. Like, it just became very evident to me that I had a lot of stigma. I grew up, I talk about that a little bit in the book, what that was like.
Yeah.
And I had to really overcome that to open my mind to the fact that I just haven't really been educated in the way that I needed to be to really jump. And then I decided the best way to do this, I at first it was having Zoom meetings with people that I knew that went into cannabis, but you can't learn an industry that way,
It's tough. It is tough.
It was tough. So I threw in a resume and I got a job as the director for product at Hexo.
Yeah.
And it was flower, edibles, and pre-rolls.
What year was that, Jackie?
Oh,
that was early though, wasn't it? It was like 19?
It was like 20. No, I think it was 2020.
2020, okay.
2020, yeah, 2020. And I said to myself when I joined, just because my life and our family wasn't conducive at that time for me to work full time, I said, okay, I'm going to stay like 6-7 months, contribute as much as I can, learn, and move on and see what that looks like. I ended up staying a year before I resigned. The people, like you've had, Todd Nolt was on our team, like he was.
Talk about product development,
right,
yeah,
right, and passion, right, and you just kind of like pick up things, and I recognize I loved it, and I did that, and decided, there was opportunity for me back in the entrepreneurial space, and here I am.
I mean, it was still early enough, right? And we're glad you're here. What was the biggest eye-opening moment for you? And we'll get to parts of the book because I love the story. I've got some stuff that it's stuck in my head now and it's never going to leave. And you had prefaced, sending me the book with, Tom, this is for those that they're kind of curious, they're wine enjoyers. Listen, it's so well organized and put together. There's information in here. One, that I learned, but two, I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what, like, why are we, and we'll get to that. But what was, when you entered, because you're coming into a new space, you've become somewhat familiar over time, a little stigmatized when it comes to the doobies, right? But you take one, you try it, and you cough, you try not to cough, and we can maybe share your first experience, right? I remember that in the book. But what was the biggest eye-opening moment? So joining Hexo, which great team to join in those days, right? They went through the turmoil. We understand that. Which company has not? I mean, let's face it, right? There's very few that haven't. But what was the biggest? Whoa! Like I did outside of regulatory control, outside of that, but just something that you learned maybe about cannabis that maybe it was Todd that influenced that or someone else, but
I would say it was how, and I know this kind of goes back onto what I said earlier, but I was translating everything I was hearing and learning into the context of alcohol and wine,
Right.
and how much that context was relevant, right?
Yeah.
I was also, I'm going to say, really shocked to see how much my paradigm, like how much I needed that job to understand that I had so many obstacles and kind of overcoming it. Like, to be honest, I was that girl at parties that had the wine cooler or a glass of wine. And when it passed around, I'd be like, oh no, wine, right? Like that
double
was
fisting tonight. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
was like
take a doob.
right. It was like a shield, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have to. So this has been a huge 180 by every means of the imagination. And yeah, so it was shocking to me. Also, like how hard people work in this industry. Like I work, I've been a Canadian Tire Corp, Unilever, LCBO for myself, and I've worked hard. But the passion that drives people in the cannabis industry, they can say what they want. I've read some articles, it's not, it is unparalleled to the work ethic I've seen anywhere else.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind.
I can attest to that. I think that, the passion does fuel it, obviously, and the desire for success that comes in whatever form we look at that. But it's also, we fought for so long, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't, at Parliament Hill marching, but I've done my part, when it comes to trying to influence legalization. But, the question still, so there's one thing that stood out in my, as we refer back to you're at the party and no, I've got some wine here, I'm good, is something that stood out, and it will for a long time for me, and it's sinking in, is that there's a line in your book and it says, alcohol is the guest of honor and cannabis or weed or the doobie is at the backyard barbecue.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, like let that sink in for a moment, right? Because that's so true. Even in today's context, it's holiday season. People are going to various, holiday parties, and usually it's going to be alcohol. There's a lot of celebration around, library of alcohol and cheers and here. And I was always that guy that, I partake. I might have a craft beer, maybe some eggnog, right? We'll see. But I was always viewed as, oh, it's Tom. He's going to go out and smoke a joint, right? He's going, oh yeah, what are you, high? And I'm like, yeah, but I can like do math right now. How you doing? You're drunk as hell. Like, so there was something that was always in me, like despite, and everyone knew, I never hit it from the age of 50, and I never hit it. I know from the police I did. But outside of that, I was always viewed as, oh, he's a stoner. Right. But those that knew me enough knew, well, he's definitely not the stereotypical stoner. But I felt that. I felt like I got to go to the backyard barbecue. You guys celebrating here. You've got place settings set for alcohol, right? So that really stuck with me. And I think that's something that everyone needs to understand, is that stigma attached, even to this day, despite legalization, having a crazy framework for it. It still is. But then as we compare and contrast that to, and I really want to understand this from your point of view, because you do a good job of putting it in the book and outlining it. Prohibition, right, for alcohol, it was still going on. It was, just like the black market of cannabis, it was going on. And then we fast forward from, I forget the original date, but to 1933, I think is when it had stopped. Prohibition had ended for the most part.
Right.
But then we have to fast forward how far into the future before it becomes acceptable amongst certain societal groups where alcohol is okay, because it was still frowned upon by many, right? Religious sects and others. So how far do we need to travel into the future for cannabis to see what we've seen in alcohol?
Right. It actually is a tremendous advantage that there is a roadmap already in place.
Right.
We've seen this before, right? So you touched on the Volstead Act, which in 1920 resulted in alcohol being outlawed.
Yeah.
Right. But beyond that, that went 13 years to 1933. Right. But as soon as that ended, wineries and alcohol companies had had a lot of turmoil too, because 1933 to 1945, I call that the post-prohibition era.
Yeah.
You know, there was massive economic challenge, right?
Mhm.
And so they were making wines that were fortified, cheap and cheerful. And then it wasn't until 1950s to the 70s where we started seeing it integrate into society, and we saw a lot of growth and cultural alignment.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm sharing this with you so you can see kind of the timeline. And then it wasn't really, guys, until the 80s to 90s where we started seeing what we're used to today with a lot of marketing and modernization.
Yeah.
And then 2000, we see globalization. But the point I'm trying to make with all this is these took decades, and it is 91 years
Wow.
to get to where we are today since Prohibition.
Yeah.
So patience is not a virtue I have, and most of us
Nor
do.
I.
Right? So it's silly, it's ridiculous of us to jump in and say, okay, in 5 years, we want to be on where we are in 2000 plus.
Mhm,
This whole,
mhm.
We're not there. It's baby steps,
You're
right?
Right.
But the first step is, in my opinion, the most important, and it's what they went through and what we need to do. And that's about cultural normalization and lifestyle integration,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And it speaks to your story you said, and a big part of that, and why why Matt and I focus Sheesh on non-inhalables is because, all right, 84% of Canadians, back in the study was in 2019, 84% of Canadians over 20 drink alcohol.
Mhm.
20% of Canadians consume cannabis.
Mm.
Okay. There's a 64% opportunity there.
Wow.
That is our biggest opportunity. But let me be crystal clear. Asking someone who drinks wine or beer who's never smoked and say, here's a pre-roll or dried flower, it's not going to happen. That is,
right.
it will maybe, but not as obvious as here's an edible or a gummy.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
That's a great point.
I'm not saying over time they won't research and go and then say, oh, this dried flower is interesting.
Mhm.
But I'm saying if we want to integrate normalization, we have to have a consumption method that people are comfortable with.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
And we're not doing ourselves, and I put this in the book, and I know I'm going to get some hate. I know this.
We get hate all the time, so join us.
I'll join you. We're now in the club. All right. So we're not doing ourselves any favor naming strains like Durban Poison and White Widow
Yeah.
and to normalize. We're
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
Right? I'm still fighting that. I'm reaching, when I share something with someone, they're like, oh, tell me about it. I don't want to say, well, this is Durban Poison.
Yeah.
This is your first, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I've
normal is-
never thought about it like that at all.
Yeah.
Never. Here's
yeah,
a White
it's-
Widow for you.
Right. Right. Right? Or
Oh my
garlic
God.
cheese sauce or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah, pink tuna.
Yeah.
What? Yeah,
Right.
not appealing. One. Also, you start adding poison and
right.
train wreck.
Right.
Right.
Ghost train his. Nobody wants that. But
It's a
know.
solid point. I've never thought about it that way.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So normalization and that whole lifestyle integration is something I think we need to unite on as an industry.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying there's not a place for Durban Poison and there's not a place for
Sure.
those things,
Yeah.
right? There is a legacy consumer who understands the history, understands why it's called that. And there's some pride there, and that should not be alienated. But if we're looking to normalize it, expand our industry, we have to take those things into consideration.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. I'm thinking, because I've always been hard on, it goes back to the Leafly days, way back, right? And when I first became, familiar with Leafly and trying to understand the different cultivars or strains. And then you see they had, at one point in time in the earlier days, there was a periodic table of strain names. And I'm like, oh, cool, you can keep up with it. And then all of a sudden it's massive. And it's because, I was a grower, right? And there's at times accidents happen. And you end up with a male, you didn't catch it, and it's pollinated some of the females. And now you've got a cross and you're like, what the fuck was that male? Was it purple train wreck? Okay, it's purple train wreck and Hawaiian snow cone. Now we've got like purple Hawaiian snow cone, right? We just start naming. And what I saw over time was with Leafly is we just kind of, I don't want to say bastardized the cultivars, but in a way we kind of did, because those OG, if we go way back to the original land races versus, cascading into Maui Wowies and Northern Lights, there was a lineage there, right?
Yeah.
But now we're getting to a point where it's like there's a new cultivar every hour, right? Cultivar hour. And I was always hard on just quit. And now we get companies that just rename. It could be a straight up Maui Wowie, and they're like, no, this is Hawaiian Escapade.
Right.
And it's like you can't. So for me as an OG type, I'm looking at it going, no. I want to know the lineage. What is the original lineage? Because for me, I understand the effects. One may be higher in, beta caryophyllene or whatever it might be, right? And I got hard on that going, stop, can you please stop? But now you've brought up a great point to say, maybe we do need to shift some of the name, right? The names of these cultivars just to be a little bit more acceptable if we want the market to expand potentially. But also the modality, thinking back, like, yeah, I mean, it's like asking a race car driver to jump behind the, I don't know what they call them, but now I'm a pilot, right? My typical consumption method is a bottle of wine into a glass. Why would I shift over and all of a sudden I'm starting to smoke a joint or hot knives, right?
Right.
So the most unappealing method that you could use for a newcomer, I think. Hot knives.
Right.
You want a hot knife? Yeah, here's a hot knife. Oh, I've never touched cannabis. What are you going to
Let me just whip out this dab rig real quick. Whip out this torch.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, so you spend your time at Hexo, product development, you're learning, like, because, oh my God, 2020, now we're talking cannabis 2.0. There's a lot of product development happening. And that's where we saw there was a lot of grandiose plans, I think, in those earlier days, 2018, 2019. Vapes being, we're going to go to vapes, but probably edibles first, right? And what do? They roll it all out here. Just do anything you want. But during that time, did you see any of those blue ocean opportunities where you're like, there's something there? And I mean, taking off the alcohol hat, what was that like?
Well, there was a few things. So, I had the opportunity, I think our team launched around 92 products in the year I was there.
That's incredible, by the way. Like, holy shit.
Thank you. It was an amazing team. Like you mentioned, Todd, Serge, he's now at Tilray, like Jordan Smith. We've had a great team really do that. And we went from number 3 to number 1 market position in market share during that tenure. Mm-hmm. But your question was around...
Like seeing just a blue ocean, like open white space that you can get into. Yeah.
Well, what happened is I started meeting directly. I took it upon myself to meet with all the buyers across the country of the major boards. And I was asking a lot of questions to really understand, A, what they were looking for, but B, what their consumers were telling them when they went to their retail environments. And what became really clear to me is that transparency is king. Okay. Whether you are a legacy consumer or a new consumer, transparency, you want to know what's in it. Like we had original stash, which we didn't always put the strain. Yeah. Right. I created and developed Bake Sale. That was my brand. It was an outlet for let's call it entry level flower at the time. And I recognized that the feedback I was getting was, we want to know the strain. We want to know when, the where, the how, like that's important. And guys, like wine, that's important. They want to know where the vineyard is. Is it single varietal, right? That's the same as a single strain, right? Yep. Who the manufacturer is, the vintage, like how old is this, right? All of that, there's synergies. And when I left there, after doing those meetings, I was like, beverages, no one is paying attention to beverages. Yeah. And that's my passion. So, and I literally tried. I bought every beverage I could. And I don't mean to be critical of competitive nature here, but like there were very few where I actually enjoyed the experience of drinking it. Right. And none of them could tell me the strain. And if they did, it was, this is the strain, but it's distillate. Right. Well,
Yeah.
all of
Well,
the
in the early
properties.
days, it was all distillate, right? Like
Yeah.
there was, and I think there was 2020, there was probably only 7, maybe 9 beverages on the market at the time, I think.
Yeah, and that's a great starting point. But as of last September, so not this past one, so 2023, I did a deep dive category analysis, and there was 209 beverages that went in and out of the Canadian market at that
Wow.
time.
Wow.
We were the only ones that were a rosin product, right?
Jeez.
That could say, this is the strain, here's who produces it. And not only that, but we took it a step further because, and this kind of comes from an alcohol campaign I saw years ago with Fever Tree. Fever Tree said, okay, you're investing huge in your vodka. That's only, 20% of your drink. What about the rest of it?
Right.
So you're going to see probably other rosin beverages come in and they're going to add syrup,
Yeah.
regular flavors. But we took it a step further and we're like, okay, here are the dominant terpenes and a little bit of, of the flavor we're getting. How do we make that delicious from head to toe? And we integrated real fruit juice, cinnamons, like things. And so that's taking a page from wine. That's taking a page of that biggest epiphany I had at Hexo, which is transparency.
Yeah. Well, plus those meetings. So go ahead, Wes. I've got a follow up to that as well.
Yeah, that's a big difference for me with your drinks versus, again, I've done my gambit. I've tried as many drinks as I can on the market, and I always find from the syrup and sugar perspective, like your sheesh, the sheesh flavors you guys have, it's a sweet drink, right? But as compared to everyone else, it in no way smacks me in the face from a sugary, overly sweetness perspective as a lot of these other drinks. Like you said, you guys have focused on that rosin aspect and considered everything else. Everything else to me tastes like, great, the cannabis is in there. Now we're just going to fill it full of everything. It just doesn't, it's not appealing to me.
It's almost like they're trying to cover it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That taste. And so now I have 2 questions as a follow up. So
Sure.
Understanding that and realizing, hey, that's the path forward. That's an opportunity, based on what we've seen in BevAlc, people understand single source. They like that. Now comes the hard part, which is how do you convey that messaging to your consumer, to your bud tenders even, right? And whether or not they care, given the complex nature, and I'll say prohibited nature of our regulations for marketing. Because that would seem in alcohol, yeah, you can do it. But over in cannabis, very difficult, no?
It is and it isn't. It is a challenge. I'm very fortunate that I paired up with a fantastic business partner like Matt Cherkas and I.
Matt. He's so good.
He's the best.
He loves croissants, by the way. He was the first at the croissant table at the holiday special. So,
yeah.
Matt. Like,
He's
I saw
a foodie.
Yeah, he is a foodie. He's a foodie.
Yeah. Yeah. And he only had one.
I don't know.
We were
busy
saw.
setting up. Yeah. But the tray did disappear quite quickly, though. So.
I could see that. Yeah. No. So I was really blessed to do that, to meet Matt, and we had this alignment on me wanting to do something strain specific, him wanting to, leverage the space, and we just, in knowing what was important to customers, meeting the boards and their consumers, and in turn the bud tenders, we were able to deliver a product that I believe consumers are looking for. And as soon as you say, this is the only live rosin strain specific product, like we can tell you actually what's in this one.
Yeah.
It's like buying a cooler and you could be getting, not knowing if it's gin, tequila, or vodka.
Right.
Like, you need that transparency. So
yeah.
I think just delivering a product with that in mind, where consumers are at now, because I get a lot of flack. Why aren't you doing a zero sugar? Why aren't you doing a spritzer? Why aren't you doing... Because
spritzer. If you hear spritzer one more time,
I'm looking for a bridge. Exactly. For real.
This is why I left that career.
I know. And they're coming. Their spritzers are starting to be there.
I bet.
And trust me, I get some heat for that. But my mind is, deliver an exceptional experience and taste with focus on quality and transparency, be consistent with that, and surround ourselves with good people. And our message is clear. We care about, solventless product. You'll see that in the new year. I'm happy to talk about that as well.
Beautiful.
And and that focus on like real juice, real ingredients, real people behind it.
Yeah.
That's what we're about.
And you can tell. I mean, obviously, if anyone has spent any time with yourself or Matt, you can tell from the people perspective, but also anyone that's consumed or tried your beverages, they're just different. I always say, they're like, well, what is it about it? I say, just try one. They're just different. I'm telling you, the mouth feels different. The effects are different. Everything is different. And you can tell that there's care that goes into, and this isn't, you're not paying to be here. We're not, big on Sheesh because you're, paying to sponsor anything. I mean, well, you guys were sponsors with our holiday special, but at the same time, we've just loved you since inception, right? And we get behind products that we love. We care about the story. We care about the ingredients. So kudos on that, because I don't know if there's enough of them, but also like anything in any market, there can't be a market full of just sheeshes, right? There has to be those, and I'll call them the, nano emulsified and infused with distillate, right?
Yeah,
there's a consumer for those. I don't know if it's based on price point, because your pricing is also at a great price point. How the hell, if you can share, how do you do that with because it is a premium? This, to me, it's an ultra premium beverage when it comes to the category. How do you do that and maintain your pricing to be competitive with because we know what goes into them. Like, it is sugar, water, and disty. That is what the vast majority of them are. There's no innovation going on. Don't claim there's innovation. This shit's been going on for a long time. How do you do that? I just don't get it.
We Matt and I keep a very tight ship. We are the company. Right. So if you're hearing back from Instagram, that's Matt. If you're seeing
who answers the pot line.
Well, we listen to that sometime. So we're going to activate on that a little more than we have. But
I love that. I think I did leave a message at one point.
We did. After Matt was on, we left a message.
Yeah. We did call and leave a message. That's right. Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, when you're supporting, when you see Sheesh, it is, we could go back to like Newman's Own and just put your face and Matt's face on the products and go, this is, when you buy Sheesh, this is who you're supporting. There's no huge corporate team behind us. It's us, right?
It's very Arizona iced tea is what it is. Yeah.
I like that analogy. Yeah. It's, we're really passionate. We have tight margins. You'll see that with our new launch, in January. Again, really tight margins, but we want to give a good quality product authentically. That is a great experience to people at a cost that, it's not stretching them. And I already, I'm already battling with, I can buy a really good cooler at the LCBO for $4.
Right.
And, our drink is $7.95 in a lot of places. But there isn't anywhere to trust me. Like, we're doing it on a thin, on a thin budget, but we really believe that we can start a momentum here and do stuff.
Well, I also think that the benefits you get out of or the effects you get out of a $4 cooler versus a $7.95 beverage, you're gonna have a lot better time, to me personally, or for an extended period of time on that $7.95. So your value right off the bat for the consumer who understands that is already better. Like,
well, let's call it ROTI, right? Return on THC investment.
Yeah.
It's,
a dollar cost average to the gram every time. I'm like, okay, that's not worth it.
Right. But I also want the experience with it.
Yeah.
I want to, so it's been that's one of our pillars of our business, is to keep things as affordable to our customers. And I do want to say, you mentioned that you have been supporting from the beginning. Like, I know that you've been a fan, and Matt and I really do appreciate it when we get texts and we get messages, and I think that's what fuels us is knowing that there's people that really appreciate the work, and so
it does keep you going. It's the same with us on Legacies. It's like, because you just get hyper focused, right? Wes is in, holiday episode edit mode, which is like, don't fucking touch him. Don't bother him. Don't invite him to a meeting. We've got our regular episodes plus this one. But then you get, a LinkedIn message or an email or something. And it's just, it's the wind beneath your wings, right? Like, it's like, okay, I get it, right? A little, who was that?
Look at
Who
you,
sung
Tom,
that?
going all
Who sung it?
Bette Midler on me.
That's it, Bette
Look at
Midler. Yeah,
you.
loved her on Seinfeld. That was the best. So listen, I want to touch on it, but I do want to get to the book because I want
Yeah.
everyone to understand the overlap and the interweaving of cannabis and wine. But let's first, the industry is not for the faint of heart, right?
No.
And you had experience. I mean, you went to school fast joining a Hexo, right? Like this is, and what, was it 92 or 91 products that you put out inside of a year,
Yeah.
somewhere in there? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
right.
So,
Yeah.
that was a crash course. That's a master class, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, at some point you're like, okay, beverages make sense. I come from there, meet up with Matt. Matt's a foodie, successful in his own right with, the two different restaurants that he was with. Entering though, I mean, you're coming in as a brand. You're not a processor. You're not, you're technically not an LP, right? Licensed producer, processor. So you have to find partners in the industry, and this is difficult. And we've seen, again, share what you're willing to share, what you're not.
Sure.
That's fine.
Sure.
But this is always difficult, and we've heard a lot of horror stories. And I'm not saying that yours is a horror story. Maybe it is. I don't know.
Cool.
But regardless, challenges are met. And how you react and deal with those challenges. I know specifically if I'm okay to mention it. If not, Wes can cut it out. But it's, you had presence, you gained distribution, which is not easy. Like, let's face it, right? Gaining distribution is very difficult. If you're talking Ontario or you're a GL versus a flow through, you're talking BCLD, like every provincial challenge a little bit unique, a little bit separate. But in this case, you get distribution. And, for me, I'm going, hey, I'm in the boonies. Can you please get distribution over here? And I talk to retailers and they're like, sheesh, yeah, this one's heard of it. That one hasn't. You need to carry it. I finally get them just for my own personal, obviously I support you guys as much as I can, but they finally start carrying it. And then I'm like, where is it? So it goes sold out, sold out, sold out. And then they're like, we can't get it. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't get it? So I'm like messaging, man, like, what the fuck is going on? They can't get it. What's going on? Where's the bottleneck? Where's the bottleneck, right? And then we find out that it's something aligned more with, your dealings, I'll say, and I'll let you explain it. But let's talk about how because you're re-upping. It's like this, it's almost like a fresh launch in a way when you're coming back out hard and heavy in January. And then, so speak to whatever challenge you can share, and then what the path forward looks like, but also where are we going to expect Sheesh in the new year?
Right. Well, as far as, learnings go, Matt and I have had a few, that's for sure. And your partnerships and alignment are probably the single biggest opportunity and challenge when you are doing a lateral style business. So we do not own our vertical up and down. Right. But that having a lateral style business gives us so much flexibility. Like we can choose some of the best growers, the McIntyre Creeks, the Crop Circles, Balloon Rise, right? Like we can, choose the best producers of like who does our recipes with NSF Guelph, their part of University of Guelph. Like it gives us all this flexibility to choose the best and not be like in Hexo, I can only use my strains to make my things, right? Like we have this world. There certainly has been some supply chain issues from our back end that we acknowledge. And, the biggest thing we were getting inundated with, and rightfully so, were from bartenders and stores saying, where is it? Yeah. And we were constantly intermittently going out. So we've taken a step to the side and we've reconfigured, and we have made some changes. We're making some significant changes to make sure that when we do come out, which is a worst case, May, it would be, and there, it'll be exciting because there's more to it. We definitely, let's call it re-upped our current, and we maybe have a new one coming to market at the same time in Ontario. This is in Ontario, right? We could be in the other markets earlier, just because of the timing it takes.
Always
through
the
their
bridesmaid
process
over here in Ontario.
Yeah, I would. You know what? The buyers have been very patient and very great, and so we're pretty excited. But in the meantime, I may as well take this opportunity to announce we actually have partnered with a fantastic manufacturer of co-man for gummies.
Okay.
And Sheesh is launching 2 gummies through
Mhm.
flow through in Ontario. We're just going to start in Ontario, although
Yeah.
other markets showed interest in it. And that'll be available on January 14th
Jan
for
14.
Ontario.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And those 2 gummies they mirror our beverages. So
Yeah.
there'll be a Cherry D for Cherry Diesel, and there'll be Bangerine Dream, which is banjo for us,
Yeah. Yeah.
using everything that we do. So it's like real fruit puree, real juice in there, and rosin, live
That's
rosin.
so exciting. That's so
You know,
exciting.
what, you know what I'm getting from that? It reminds me of when I was a kid. I used to have they were called So Delicious. They were So Delicious gummies. They were shaped like little soda pop bottles. That's just what what
Oh,
I'm hearing.
yeah.
I remember those.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
that's what I'm getting. This
Well,
is
I
exciting,
was privy
exciting.
to the information that this was coming because obviously we talked about it on next week's episode that's coming out. But when you were sharing this with me, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
like this. But something because despite going through your challenges, so we'll call it supply and demand challenges. Okay, can I distill it to
Yeah,
that for the time being? Okay,
For sure.
so the thing that's kind of like this is in the grand scheme of the vast majority of the brands that exist in Canada. I'm not even talking categories. I'm just talking brands, period. If you have lulls and you're having difficulty keeping up with the supply, that's one thing. But then a lull where you're almost out of market a little bit, like you're still there.
Mhm.
Those brands, the vast majority, again, would have a very difficult time coming back. But not in the case of Sheesh that I feel. And these are from, conversation. We have a lot of conversations every week, even outside of Legacies, believe it or not, where Sheesh is a dominant brand. It is, for many, you talk beverage, it's Sheesh. Like they are 100% behind Sheesh, looking for it, wondering. It's almost like Find Waldo sometimes, right? But it's getting to the point where if I had a brand, unless I had that staying power, top 10, I would feel if I were to go through what you've gone through, I just probably wouldn't make it. But you guys are going to come back with a bang.
Yeah. Yeah. That's our ambition for sure. We don't want to let people down, right? Like we want to deliver a good product. Live rosin does add complexity to the supply chain.
I bet.
Right.
I bet.
And we've had so many great retail partners. We have bud tenders behind us.
Mhm.
And we honestly, Tom, we couldn't be more grateful. Like it's been,
That's awesome.
it's just, we want to make sure that before we, proliferate our SKUs and have a huge assortment and run into these problems, we want to make sure we bite it down, right? And
smart.
solve.
Yeah.
And so that when we do come, we come with a commitment to deliver.
I love it.
So
I love it. And it would seem that because you're dealing with the provincial buyers in a lot of cases, right? I would assume that if there was a bit of a lull and you're like, oh, by the way, we're ready, product calls, Ontario with their crazy product calls. But regardless, you're like submitting and they're like, oh yeah, everyone else step aside. Sheesh, you're here? Okay, come on. Right? That's the way I view it anyways. I would assume that you've got, I know you don't like to speak in those terms or anything like that, but let's face it. Everyone across all provinces that you've been distributed in, they love you guys. They love your products. They love you guys.
Thank you.
The bud tenders, again, every bud tender, I'm like, do you have Sheesh? No, that's the response we get, right? No, we're out, or we don't have it, or it's sold out. Anyways, listen, it's super exciting. I think, bringing the gummies in, smart, especially when you bring that same care and quality that you've, dominated in the beverage side of it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how close you guys can get to the original pairing flavors. And would you recommend gummy wash it down with a Sheesh Soda as well?
They
I don't
go
care.
hand in hand.
I don't care if it's recommended. It's happening.
Yeah, Wes is like, anyways. Okay, so listen, let's talk a little bit about chill.
Let's do it.
The wine lover's introduction to cannabis. Again, you'd prefaced it with, now Tom, this is for those wine lovers. Are you a wine lover? And I'm going to ask, maybe I'll ask as we start discussing the book a little bit, why you haven't considered a air quote wine. I think we'll figure that out. What was it at what point? And I know from the book, but I want you to explain it. Where you're like, holy shit, cannabis is just like wine.
Yeah, in the chair at Hexo.
In the
I was
chair at
in my
Hexo.
chair at Hexo, and like I said, everything was translating. But what I found, my social group and friends are all wine
Right.
lovers, and many of them cannabis users as well. And but the ones that aren't are really adverse, like really stuck in the stigma.
Yeah.
And so I was suddenly explaining it. And this is my version of it, but I said, okay, so think there's sativa indica hybrid.
Yeah.
Okay. So sativa, a little lighter, gets you focused. You carry on your day, some activity, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah.
And I know every strain has both. And
Sure.
I know there's
we
a
won't,
perspective.
Ryan Lee will be all over us. He's
Yes.
Cannara, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I said, think of that as a white wine, like your
Right.
Pinot Grigio in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Red is a little heavier. You unwind, you relax. That's where you have, your indica. And then the hybrid, well, that's a rosé. It's the best of both worlds, right?
Right.
Like I started and then I was talking about the people behind it, like the history and how, on a pre-roll, you can smell it and you get the terpenes, how, linalool. It's a terpene that's found in Riesling and Gewürztraminer wine.
No, that terp will mess you up.
Yeah, right? But it's in wine. And then I said,
Yeah.
and it's also in some hazes, like Amnesia haze and things like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? It was this epiphany. And I'm like, by the way, they're also both plants. Okay,
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
basic. And it just, it just hit me. Like, a cannabis plant needs to be dried, cured, and heated, right?
Yep.
And wine needs fermentation and heating and to get there too, right? To let's call it unleash its magic in both cases.
Yeah.
And there's so many synergies. So it became like me and as soon as I was explaining it to people, like they were changing their paradigms.
Yeah.
And there was a gentleman in the UK who just reviewed the book on Talk Show UK. And he's like, he was apprehensive to read it. And he goes, this has changed me and my
Wow.
perspective.
Nice.
And the goal of the book, I had it, I didn't grow up saying I want to write a book. I'm never, anyone who's ever known me, I have ADD, I am not, right? But this is, I believe, this can help so many people with stigma and understanding. But more importantly, guys, cannabis is a natural extension of life's refined enjoyments.
Right.
It's a natural extension of enjoyments. And, anytime you love something too much, you need to reevaluate your relationship. Okay. But generally speaking, if you have it in moderation and you respect it, it can really enhance your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
so when you set out, you finally get this, I'm going to write a book about this, right? So we understand the aha is Jared Exo, but did you view it as, if I write this, I can help reduce stigma, I can convince those that are somewhat apprehensive? Where was your mind at with that? Because everyone, I think, that puts it, there are individuals, that are just like, I'm going to write a book, and maybe it's fiction. They just, somehow do it. I still don't know how. But then with others, we know there's intent, right? When you take certain doctors, they're trying to convey certain messages. What was your reasoning, I guess?
it came from sticky wall. I call it my sticky wall.
Okay.
I have sticky notes all over that showed, for me, they were like the whole indica, big red wine, Jackie.
Yeah.
It was like this, think this. And I looked around and I thought, my life has improved since integrating it into my life. And I want to help educate other people to do the same. To really, if it helps them sleep, if it helps them relax, if it just helps them laugh more.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it began as that. Recognizing I think I have a unique perspective that I can offer people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the stigma reduction is huge for me.
Right.
Because there are people that have challenges in families and all this thing that I really believe this book can help at least, put into perspective.
From my point of view, and again, like you touch on just enough without, there's a couple of times you reference in the book, you're like, we're going to geek out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
You didn't go so deep where you've lost your readers that they just don't want to necessarily understand it. But I view it more as, because you add your background, your first experience, And as you go through it, you're painting the picture. Yes, if I'm a wine lover, I can understand the overlap and how it makes sense. But when you bring it into the science, I think you've gone just deep enough, right? Like I instructed a course with Quantum Poly. It was on cannabis plant facility management, and right, if we had gone that deep, people would be like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" Right? But you even hit ruderalis, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, at first you mention it, and then there was nothing about autoflower. But then later, as I caught up, I'm like, okay, she got it. It's autoflower, right? We use that for breeding. But you've gone just deep enough to allow the average consumer or those kind of curious to go, oh, okay. Because even, again, there was certain times within the book, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a great point to make for those that are, one, apprehensive, but two, a little bit curious about what's going on with it. But when you just look at the simple botany of it, right, and understanding it's natural, you have to go through, from seed, and I love the history. So where I did learn a lot was on the history of, vines and wine and how it made its way across and eventually to North, like years or decades or centuries passed to get to Cali and some of those areas, right? But I look at it as there's enough information that it allows me to go, okay, it is nature. It is a plant. It goes through very similar processes, whether, you're brand new wine varietals and you're trying to, bring them into, Lambton County areas here in Ontario versus what we're going now. The only big difference that I see, and I'd love to see this, is, when cannabis meets its end, it meets its end. It's done. Like you're cutting her down.
Yeah.
But with wine, it's nurturing and continuing with your soils and building that out. I wonder if there's ever a future where you don't have to completely kill the cannabis plant. There is monster cropping, which is science of its own.
Well, the
which is
seed,
crazy.
right? The seed.
There's a seed, it produces its
Yeah.
seed and you regerminate it. Yeah, but I'm thinking through, like, there's been times where I've made mistakes and, you harvest a plant and you're like, oh shit. But you can get it back into a vegetative state and then it'll flower again. It is possible. It's, master cropping and other terminologies for it. And I'll tell you that cannabis comes out with crazy flavonoids. Like, it's nuts. What within the book would you say is the biggest message you want to convey for those? For our audience, I think we've got a lot of cannabis OGs, right?
Yeah.
But we, our audience is a mix. It's all the way from kind of curious and consumer to executives overseeing these largest cannabis corporations. What single message would it be that you want to convey about the book and why they should read it?
For me, I think the biggest message is that, the cannabis plant is not that far away from what we're used to, in terms of, and specifically from wine.
Right.
There already is an established baseline of education that people know about wine that can very easily lean into that whole extension of your life's enjoyments through cannabis.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is that easy. We just have to be open-minded to learning and to paying attention.
And quit naming it green crack.
Yeah, that. Thank you.
Or F you up for days.
Yeah.
If we stop with some of that. Jackie, where can individuals get your book?
Yeah, it's available now on Amazon. We have a hardcover, softcover ebook, and the audiobook just launched on Audible last week.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So
I've gotten right into the world of audiobooks. They're so convenient.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Who narrates it?
Not me.
Not
We got a
you.
professional. I wanted to, but the publisher
That's
was
tough. It's
I
tough.
know.
Even when Wes and I have done some pre-recording stuff for voiceover, I'm like holding my breath because I don't want to make the in the microphone sounds, and it's tough.
We got to get. We should get Gary from the podcast to.
Oh my God,
to narrate that. That'd be insane.
Gary's voice is golden. It's
Nice.
incredible. But anyways, so available on Amazon. Available in hardcover as well. I might have to order a hardcover.
I'll stick the links to those down in the description for anyone who's
That's
looking to purchase.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, listen,
awesome.
Jackie, congrats. Much continued success. I encourage everyone to check out Chill, the Wine Lover's Guide to Cannabis. Even if you are an OG, there is elements of this book that you will learn, especially as they relate back to wine. Very interesting. Jackie, thanks so much for joining Legacies. We appreciate everything you're doing. We're looking forward to the new product. Man, it's going to be a good 2025.
Looks like it. Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're joined by Nicholas Sosiak of Cannara Biotech, Tribal, Nugs, Orchid, or as I like to say, Nico Dank. Nico Dank, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yourself, Tom?
Very well, very well. We're glad we can make it happen today. We were just joking before we started recording, saying, hey, you've got an investor call webinar tomorrow too. Let's schedule a podcast right before that.
Yeah, man. I say yes to everything. I love this shit too much. So I just, I'm in it and just working day and night to get things done, man.
Yeah, that's one thing we know. You're a hustler. And Wes and I said at the onset of the show, it seems that anytime a CPA individual is at the helm or very close to the helm of a company in cannabis, they seem to do very well for some reason. We'll get into that.
So, that's what cash is king in our industry. So
cash is king. Count the pennies and the dollars look after themselves.
That's it.
That's it. So let's first acknowledge the lion. Not only what is on your necklace? Is it a lion as well? I can't see it that far.
I like lions.
The lion of Zion, and of course trading, love, right? TSXX. Is that right?
TSXV, actually. We're on the venture for now and, working towards the TSX.
All right. Well, listen, let's understand what brought you into this crazy world of corporate cannabis, air quote, corporate cannabis. You had a career and then decided, hey, you're going to come over here and do this. Obviously, you have an affinity for cannabis, which we all know. But outside of that, what was that pathway and journey into Cannara?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm an accountant by profession. I was just a straight A student all the time, accounting. I was in marketing before. Okay. And then I did my accounting class and I aced the test with like doing little work. And I was like, holy shit, this is too easy.
Oh, you're one of those guys. Great.
In the class, right? So I was like, shit, this is too easy. So I switched my career path. I was like going to accounting, looked up the CPA thing. And what I noticed with CPA is just like, you get to touch all aspects of a business and it doesn't like pigeonhole you into, a certain aspect of the business. You can really like step back and really figure out what your passion is and then merge with the CPA. It's very valued. So I figured, I can eventually get into where I want to be with the CPA. So I did the CPA, blasted through that. And I was always like a weed pothead by nature through my whole school. But what I did is like, I knew when I go into things, I put everything I got into it and I do it, big. So I never got into, call it the legacy game, because I knew it would be big and I wanted a family and I just didn't want to get into that style of trying to earn an income.
Yeah.
So I just, I stuck to it. But what I did is I had buddies that were in the game and, I just tried all their products and gave them advice and helped them on the accounting side too. And I was just a, passionate guy as well in cannabis. So looking at brands in the US, going whenever I went to the US, tried products, different branding, the vape carts, tried thousands of different vape carts to figure out what is a good vape cart. Like I knew that was my passion. Cannabis was my passion, but it wasn't legalized when I was trying to find a career path. So as an accountant, I joined a real estate company. I did some large projects around the world, resort style projects, condominium style projects. So building them up and then selling them. So I was VP finance there, and then Canada started announcing that they're going to legalize weed in 2017.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to get into the scene, but I knew I wanted to get into it finally. And I just I threw a lot of money, my savings, at the market back then because I believed in it. I knew that this was an opportunity for for the legacy guys to actually come out and do something. But unfortunately, I was naive back then and realized that corporate greed got the best of it, and lost a lot of money.
You and many others.
I was betting big, and I was vested. Like the stock went up, I was super high, but
yeah,
you know, I was so vested that I knew that it was going to continue, and then I got clipped on the way down, right?
Jeez.
So you know, I was like, okay, I'm on a vengeance plan now. I got to do this myself. Cannara, I got an investor deck from Cannara. You know, and I said, okay, there's a Quebec-based company. I have a family, 2 kids, wife. Been with her 15 years, so it's hard to just pick up your family and move. Yeah. But I knew I wanted to do that, so I applied across the country to different companies, and Cannara sent me the investor deck. I applied as VP Finance there. They initially told me I was overqualified. They weren't public yet, but when they went public in January of 2019, I got the call April of 2019 saying, hey, Nick, we have a financial statement due in 10 days. First statement ever. We have basically nothing really built out yet. So we you know, that offer that we sent you and rejected you, it's back on the table. So
yeah, it's like, back, and we doubled it.
Exactly. So I took that offer and started at Cannara in 2019 April, got that financial statement delivered in 10 business days. And just started building the accounting department and, you know, setting that up so that I can have the right people in it and I don't have to focus on accounting per se. So I got, you know, my left-hand VP Finance, Noemi, who just takes care of all that finance stuff now, gives me comfort that it's well done. And then as building that, I just, you know, I challenged the organization, you know, what direction we were going. So what genetics we were going back then, we were like, it was our first grow. They were popping AK-47, Baba Kush, you know, Northern Lights, like the OG genetics, but like nothing that screamed, you know, as a first launch, like something unique that I really wanted to bring to the market, that I envisioned to see our brands as a market, right? Eventually we can get into the land races and the OGs, but I think you have to set yourself apart before you can, you know, you have to blow those out of the water. Those have to be the best Northern Lights, the best Bubba Kushes you've ever smoked to be, you know, to be reputable. So I had my seats that I kept, you know, very close to Hard Gelato Ming, Cuban Links, Galactic Run, all these seeds. I went, you know, the accountant went to the cultivation team, the CEO, and said, you know, you gotta plant these beans. You gotta take these beans. You gotta throw all the other genetics you guys got sourced out and throw them out the window because like these are the beans. Yeah. And it took a while because it was hard to believe that, you know, I had something going. And you know, what's unique here is our CEO Zohar is he built the business initially, you know, got the investing and put down the first 12-15 million to buy the building, but didn't have any knowledge of cannabis. Knew that he wanted to be part of the game, but didn't know how to grow cannabis. Wasn't part of the team before. Right. But what's different about the CEO is like he rolled up his sleeves and he just started growing himself. Yeah. We had some legacy growers back then. That's when I challenged them. They grew their AK-47s, Bubba Kushes. It all failed. And I'm like, okay, Zohar, we got to try these beans. And he trusted me. We planted those beans. And you can imagine somebody that's coming from a blank canvas. Yeah, that's, you know, we're coming at a disadvantage. But his canvas that he's working with is 52 harvests a year, a harvest a week, copy paste every single week. Wow. So you can imagine week 1, worst cannabis I've ever smoked in my life. Week 2, okay, we're getting better. Week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6. So before we actually sold a gram of cannabis to the market, before we actually came to market, we had 52 harvests to learn from. Wow. So this guy rolled up his sleeves and we had PhDs on staff. We had, you know, he built the whole building. So he knew his dehumidifiers, he knew the quests, he knew the VPD charts, he knew the irrigation system. He just didn't know genetics and what exactly needed to be done and how unique each genetic is. But he always knew that he wanted the best quality. So I never had to fight for that. It was always hang dry. It was always hand trim. It was just dialing in the facility with the genetics that we have and understanding that. And I worked through him until this day. This guy drives 3 hours a day to both facilities, 8 hours a day from Monday to Monday, going through the whole facility, checking the plants. He knows when a plant needs something. I mean, of course, we have our whole team, but we have that double check that just goes through and is able to find, issues or correct issues or just improve stuff, improve efficiencies, improve yield. We're always doing tests. We're doing in vitro tests. We're doing all kinds of different under canopy test lights now and all kinds of different things to really improve the quality. Like we never look at our quality and say like, this is it. Like every day that goes by, we know that our quality can increase. And that's thanks to the team that we have at Cannara that we built. We're 400 people right now. Zohar's leading the whole operation, cultivation side. He can out-talk any cannabis grower I know with this level of spend. And things that he got his ability to work into the garden at that scale. So he's running that, and I got the finance kind of on autopilot, and just working on sales, marketing, creating product, creating that whole ecosystem for tribal nugs and Orchid CBD right now.
Dude, what a path. Wow. I've got a lot of questions now. So, and it's funny, since our meeting and discussing getting you on the podcast, we talked about Zohar and his, affinity for cultivation and how he just went all in to understand that. And since that meeting, I've heard that from multiple people now about how involved he is. Also, how a little crazy he can be sometimes. Does he have a helicopter's pilot's license?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so something around there. But let me go back a little bit. So prior to joining the industry, you talked about traveling the U.S., seeing the various product categories, what was available. What was your favorite product or category of choice back then?
So I mean, back then it was for me it was flower and vape carts. Now I'm like exclusively rosin.
You're a dab king now. I think Wes models his dabbing ability off of all your inspiration, maybe.
Well, the Nugs. I'll say this: the Nugs, the Temple Hash was the sorry, I can't remember what the name was. The Nugs rosin was my first dab I ever did, though. Yeah, that's it. The turbo. That was the first dab I ever did, and that was my introduction to it. Yeah.
And now we dial again, same thing with that one. We keep dialing it in to get the cleanest and the best rosin way we can. We just launched Neon Sunshine, Bubble Up, Triple Burger, Early Lemon Berry, and Turple. Now we're pheno hunting exclusively for rosin as well. So it's gonna be some good drops and just continuous improvement all the time. Like we never look at our product and say like we can always do better, and it's just scaling at that time, but always having that concept of we can always do better and never go back in quality. And if we do, sometimes it happens, but we have to identify it, fix it, and just get back on that that horse.
Was there any hesitancy at first when they reached out? They're like, hey, we've got year end, whatever it was that you mentioned, we've got 10 days to get this done. Did you not go, oh fuck, like I don't know if these guys got it together. I don't know if this makes sense.
It was an automatic yes. Like
it was an automatic yes.
When I go all in, it's all in. Like give me 2 days to do it, and I'll figure out how to move the clock 20, 30 hours in a day, and we'll figure it out.
Condensed time. How was it obvious or evident that you were going to be able to have your hands involved in so much of the business?
No.
Or that started to come over time?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I call it war scars, but that was it was a process. It was a 3-year process too. Right. There was a CFO over me, and there was different levels of operations management. We had a CEO, we had different directors, and now it's just me and Zohar, and now the team under us. So it was just through trial and error and learning and figuring out who are the right people that stuck around, and I just never let go. Like I just kept on pushing and showing what I knew I could do.
Well, I think it's a testament to Cannara's success so far, right? Like, and we'll see continued success. But and I've seen this a couple of times. I think I've shared it where like I catch a stock watch, and they're not even discussing cannabis stocks, but they just happen to include Cannara in there as, hey, this is one that you should be paying attention to. And I'm like, out of all the cannabis stocks, so many. You talk about myself and multiple friends and family, we got burnt on the early days of the industry. In some cases, doubling down, going, oh, this stock's going through the roof. And then dollar cost averaging when it drops, going, oh shit, maybe this is the time to get in more. We all lost lots. We'll say lots. But throughout that time, was it a matter of going, is everyone's just sharing the same vision? We're going to be Cannara. We will be successful. We will be that horse to bet on. Or was it 1 inch at a time, 1 inch at a time? What was that like?
No, I think like the organization, Zohar, and the people that we had was always like, we always had that, like the value proposition, which he instilled at the beginning, was the highest quality we can produce day in, day out, every day, that just like moving ticker at the lowest cost price we can offer our consumers. And that's a ticker going down. Yeah. So we knew that that's our value proposition, and that was the perfect layout for, the company. So everyone was always hyped about Cannara and what we're going to do. Tribal, what I'm the most proud of is back in 2019, I was VP Finance sitting with our Chief Marketing Officer, and we were discussing the brands, and, I came in, I poked my nose in there. I'm like, look, what are the brands that we're going out with, and what are we doing? It was Tribal, it was Orchid, it was another brand than Nugs. I didn't like it. I went, I took the night to think about a name. I went on to 99design.com. I gave a brief to somebody on 99design.com, woke up the next morning to the Nugs logo, which I gave them like the Nugs logo right behind me. Yeah.
Gorgeous.
And like my jaw dropped, like it just heartstrung like that. Nice. Morning. I remember waking up and just seeing that logo. Like there was hundreds of logos out. 99 Design works. You send like a brief. I said, look, it's Nugs the name. I want that vibrant California lifestyle brand, take concepts from Jungle Boys, cookies. I want bring in that retro, like when we were young in the 90s and the 80s, wherever your time frame is, those eclectic moments in life that just tied cannabis to it. Like that's for me what Nugs was all about. Yeah. I gave that brief. I woke up to all kinds of like different logos, and that, like, I think it was on page 7 or 8 or something like that. That one logo, I was like, yo, that's it. And then I showed it to the marketing guy the next day. He was like, yep, that's it. Changed the name of it. And now we had those 3 brands, and we haven't changed those 3 brands for the past 5 years. We went from $1 to $100 million with those 3 brands. Wow. So, and like, I don't think a lot of other brands can say that, or companies can say that. Like, it's always acquisition, or you come up with a sub brand or a value brand or something like that. No, this is just the 3 brands, and like I can double, triple that with those same 3 brands. Like I still got a lot of room to grow on 3 brands, right? It's, for me, it's all about genetics. It's you need brands we differentiate our brands, and I can go through that after if you want. But like we have our 3 categories, and it's not about quality, and it's not about price. It's just consumer segments or product categories, and always with the most quality and consistency at the lowest price we can produce for that. And then we take that and we put into those 3 brands, and we just continue genetic hunting. And like that's as long, and I what we're doing is just finding unicorns of the industry. Right. What's, like I even today I walk, especially in the US, like it's just ridiculous, but I see it coming maybe in a year, probably 2025 in Canada, where it's just genetic overload. Right. You're just throwing everything, and there's products, and fucking all these drops. And like at one point, everything, crazy. I went through 150 pheno hunt, everything. Like there's little nuances, but what I'm trying to look for is a unicorn. Right. Something that stands the test of time. Our Cuban Links and our Gelato Mint, grown back in 2020, released in 2020, still today are one of our, Cuban Links is the top selling genetic that I have in my portfolio. Crazy. Right? So that is a unicorn in itself, right? Yeah. The Neon Sunshine, I'm betting that's the next unicorn that I'm saying, it's just gonna keep going and going, and it's gonna stand the test of time. And you've got to keep finding those unicorns, 10, 12, 14 unicorns, and then on the side keep dropping new genetics, and that just keeps growing the portfolio, right? Yeah, yeah.
So you've got obvious mind share, right, which is important in marketing, and people understand. You've got Tribal, you've got Nugs, and you've got Orchid, and some might make the relation and tie it back to Cannara. But one of the obvious areas that you guys have been able to break through is, you get your OGs that are very true to the plant. They're very true to certain cultivars and the processes that go into making the products, and they can relate that. But some of them, they try to avoid the larger cannabis companies because they're like, oh, it can't be as good as, craft, living soil, organic. And we get it. And we know why, right? There's some that try to claim that they are, and they fail miserably, but due to various economic factors, it could be price points, that some survive. But with Cannara, those brands, they've stayed true, so you have that mind share. How do you differentiate between each of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So it all starts with Tribal. Tribal is like, the big brother of the three. Tribal is the pheno hunt. Like if you go into our website right now, we completely revamped it into this genetic worlds that like there's this narrator behind it, which is the traveler. And it's really hunting the world for different genetics and flavors and highs and this and that, right? So Tribal is finding those unicorns. Once we find those unicorns, we have a set category in Tribal that all those unicorns go into, right? Because as a cannabis smoker, we like to try different things, but we also like to come back to our most consistent product ever, right?
Right.
So having like unicorns and sativas and indicas and hybrids at high THC point, at low THC points, some tasting like blueberry, some tasting like gas, some tasting like grapes that actually taste like grapes, and meat and rubber and all the flavors that we find in cannabis. So you get this whole portfolio. You always come to Tribal, whatever you're looking for. I'm a sativa guy, I'm an indica guy, or whatever. I want to try a new different high this week, or I want to try a different flavor.
Yeah.
Great. We have that all. Okay, now are you a dry flower smoker? Are you a pre-roll smoker? Are you a live resin consumer? Or are you a vape consumer? Right? Or do you just want to get absolutely blitzed and try our trifecta?
Right.
So, choose all three, maybe eventually beverages and edibles. That's when the milligrams go up and I can actually play with creating good products. But those genetics, those unicorns always have those homes. That genetic house is Tribal, goes into a very consistent product portfolio where you can keep coming back and you can explore different flavors as you go.
Okay.
So that's really the Tribal house of genetics and methodology. And then you go into Nugs, where Nugs is like the younger brother to Tribal, which is like, hey, big bro, what do you got on discount today that I can offer my, that my consumers a better deal or a bigger pack offering or a cooler, rather, because Tribal's very categoric, playing its playfield.
Yeah.
Nugs can go in there and take two genetics, right? Like our Neon Sunshine and our Bubble Up, and put them together, call it Neon Bubble Bath, and create a hash out of it, create a cured resin with like terps in it, for a different consumer, create a grind product out of it, create different things, right? Given that rosin is every genetic doesn't produce great rosin, it's very unique to specific genetics. Tribal can't play in that game, right? Can't offer a rosin for every genetic. So then that's where Nugs comes in and says, hey, I can play in the rosin game, and hunts Tribal's genetic libraries to find the right rosin, and gives it out to our people. So same thing with rosin pens eventually that we're going to do, our rosin gummies, our hash, and then also says, okay, well, we have unique flowers. Right now I have ELB and guava jam, which are unique genetics to Nugs, which are only offered in bigger volume, 7 grams and 28 grams. And how I do that is if I find a genetic that's like super, super high yielding and I can offer a lower price per gram, that's when it becomes a Nugs genetic, right?
Yeah. Very cool.
And then Orchid is the sister there, where we haven't really built it yet. We're still, CBD is an even harder pheno hunt to hunt. So we found our CBD runs. We created along the line, same with Tribal, coming out in pre-rolls, live resin, flower. Now we have these like flower sticks, cigarette style sticks, and different rosins and resins eventually, and then pheno hunt different CBD genetics and create different products to it. And that brand is going to evolve into a character. Right now it's the pink and the nice fluffiness and the softness and that, but it doesn't truly have a brand identity yet. It's in the works, but right until we build more, it needs more products to be able to build its value proposition there, right?
Well, the CBD runs is awesome. I love it. I think we talked at Can Exec. I'm like, I'm on the hunt for really good 1-to-1 flowers. Like, and it's like CBD flower is tough. That's a tough plant to grow.
Yeah.
Brands over time, or I'll take it up a notch because it's not even brands, but LPs, right? They've been criticized when they have. How many SKUs do you guys have across the entire Cannara portfolio right now?
Well, it's a hefty portfolio. It's about 100.
100, right? So there's been criticism, and for good reason, I think, with some of the companies, right? They, we've joked before, and we say, so many LPs, producer processors. I don't even like the term LP anymore, but it's inherent, right? From day one. They launch a SKU, they get distribution, they high five, and then back to the drawing board, and they're coming up with new SKUs, forgetting that, okay, it's time to put your marketing hat on now. How are you going to market that brand, that product? How are you going to ensure, because we live in this very convoluted system of regulations when it comes to promotion and marketing, right? So technically you're marketing the most, it's B2B, your retailers, your dispensaries. But how do you jump that? How do you ensure that we're going to hit the consumer and we're going to have that brand recognition? But also, how do you talk off because you guys have been successful at it, where others have failed miserably, massive amount of SKUs into market. But that seemed like that's what they were doing. They're just, okay, we've got distribution, we're in OCS, we're gonna go back and create another SKU, and then it's either RTVs or it's shit product and it's not selling. Like, how do you talk that off and relate that to the success of where Cannara is right now?
Yeah, so I mean, an analogy that I usually give is like we're playing a dartboard. The dartboard is the consumer. All my competitors are throwing hundreds and hundreds of darts to hit that one thing, and I'm focusing on 5 to 10 darts and landing most of them right into the bullseye, right?
Right.
So that's really, it's just taking the time. It all starts with the product. If I were to buy cannabis, so we've never sold, and I'm pretty proud to say that we've never sold 1 gram of cannabis that's not been produced here in Cannara under our brands.
That's incredible.
Even if we're missing an order, I don't buy cannabis to fill that. I lose the sales. I leave it on the table, and I just go for it.
It could be a death sentence, right? Sourcing something that's not up to par, or I mean, might not even be your cultivar or genetic potentially.
Exactly, and then we have to lie to the consumer and say it's this and that, and so it all starts with the product. It all starts with the value prop. So it's consistency, quality, and coming up with products that consumers want, right? Cool products. I'm creating, honestly, a lot of the products. I don't do much market share data or analysis. I'm creating products that I want for myself, right? That I would consume this, and I'm the final person where I'm like, okay, yeah, this would be in my arsenal of products that I would consume, and then that's a product that goes out. Last year was a bit more. I threw more darts last year. Because we were building the organization. We went from 3 rooms, which are 25,000 square feet. So we scaled from 10,000 kilos to 30,000 kilos.
Wow.
In a year and a half. So I had to make sure that I had all the product categories available to use my entire plant. So I threw more. So that's when I entered the grind category. I entered the cured vape category. I did a bunch of darts, right? Most of them, hit. Some of them we had to discontinue. But most of them hit. But what it did is it got all our products, a product or 2 products or 3 products in each of the categories that now I can utilize my whole plant with.
Oh, okay.
So now the year 2, now it's just little darts, like our trifecta, our hash wrap, our neon sunshine, our bubble up, which are automatic. Like we put in the time, the energy to know these are home runs. We're coming up with the new AI all-in-one for tribal. It's going to be a home run, right? So we know that's really how we play the game, right? The marketing game right here is like we focus on the product, delivering what consumers want, genetic hunts to find flavors that no one's ever tasted before, or the best perception of that flavor profile that we're trying to find, and then we wrap that up into our products, give a great value proposition to the consumer, throw that out in the wild, and then who's our cavalry? Who are the people on the ground day to day talking to our consumers every day, recommending product? As a consumer, who did I go see? I went to my dealer and I said, hey, what do you got on deck today? What's new? What are people liking? Can I try it? This, that. So I, even as an expert, I'll still go in and ask someone else's opinion. So I know, to me, that's akin to everyone else. If I'm doing it and I'm an expert, that means everyone's kind of doing that, right?
Sure.
And I mean, I validated going into market and seeing how it is. That's people want the recommendation, right? So you have these bud tenders that are getting recommended. So these are your people that you should be taken care of, right?
Right.
These
Yeah.
are the people that should be your first target for creating an ecosystem of brand loyalty and quality and trust and products, and sell it to them, and then they'll sell it to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
So that was our word of mouth strategy, and we do that, and then that evolves into the standard marketing, and just making sure that you're present in every store, and every time you have a drop, making sure that people are aware of the drop, doing those kind of events where it's making sure we're the best there and the biggest and the loudest, to make that impact and show what these brands are all about. And but at the root of everything is product innovation and product development and quality of the products.
Yeah. Man, he laid me with so much that I'm like, okay, I need to ask that question. So there's a few things there. One is, I'll come right from where you tailed off there. You guys are on point when it comes to, there's a new product, you've got marketing. I mean, we use this as a model, right? People are like, what can we be doing? I'm like, well, look at what Cannara's doing. Like, you start with that. I realize that, you got 400 people there, right? And it's a little different than some of the other industry or other brands that are operating in this industry. A little more challenging, but there's cues that you can take, which is if you're going to drop a new product, which I'm super excited to try. I got to try that hash wrap. That, like, when I saw that, I'm like, say what? Okay, hold on. Yeah. But it's product coming, inform the bud tenders, inform the retailers, get the word out there, put it on socials, put it on, anywhere that you can put it, but also be present. And that, obviously, that takes money. I mean, it takes money. Let's face it. So you guys do that very well. Let me bring back to, so you're like, because I see this going horribly wrong for so many companies, right? Where they're like, I like it, it's going to be a winner, right? You're wired a little bit differently, and maybe have, your ear to the ground a little bit differently as well, where it seems like the vast majority of what Cannara launches, whether that's through Tribal, Nugs, Orchid, it hits. Whereas I've seen this a million times where, well, the CEO really loves this one, and it could be a smaller team, and then they launch and it's failure to launch. Like, it goes nowhere. Is that
I
just
wouldn't recommend following my strategy, that's for sure. You have to remember, I was 16 or something when I started smoking cannabis, and when I go into something, I go into it hard.
Yeah.
I didn't focus on building a business in cannabis, growing cannabis. I focused on learning cannabis, learning what people like, learning what my friends like, learning what different markets, talking to bud tenders, asking the right questions. So I developed that kind of knowledge that then I put it with what I enjoy. And it's, to me, I see all the connections for every product and how what the market wants, what the market doesn't even know about, right?
Right.
For me to find what I put in my live resin Tribal right now took me hundreds and hundreds of carts back in the legacy days to going from the distillates and the cured resins and getting all these carts that tasted like crap and clogging and this, until I found one cart that was like, holy shit, this is like amazing.
Yeah.
And then I tried to replicate the recipe and figure it all out and did it under the Tribal brand, right? So that's really, it's unique. Definitely, like, you can't just say, oh, because I like it, we also have sensory tests. We make sure that our team, internal team, a group of 10, 15 people, like it. I have a couple of guys in my office that give me the thumbs up when I give them a product. Yeah. Most of the time I give them the product with some smile on my face. I'm like, just try this. And then they're like, yep, it hits. So yeah, it's just, I'm a big consumer. I know my products from flower down to rosin. I have I'm a certified BHO extractioneer.
Oh, wow.
I was the first one to extract our gelato mint live resin vape cart with our CEO. Me and our CEO just went into the BHO lab and went to the C1D1.
Dude, that's got to make it so fun. Like, rather than just staring at a computer screen and counting.
Live resin, I knew the recipe I wanted to create. I'm like, Z, we gotta make this, and trial and error, throwing shit, doing shit, going in the BHO lab, blasting stuff and getting the product, doing the trifectas. The guy, the team thought I was fucking crazy for saying, look, I want to blast BHO. I want to separate the resin and the diamonds. I want this joint to be exclusively gelato mint, solely sourced gelato mint or Cuban links. Everything about it is the holy trinity of like, I've never smoked anything like this, basically.
Right.
So inside it's got to be Cuban links flour. Inside it's got to be Cuban links terp sauce. Outside's got to be the Cuban links diamonds from our fresh frozen resin.
Wow. Jesus.
You know, that and replicate that under triple burger. Can't wait for the triple burger one. The galactic runts, the neon sunshine, the bubble up, and all the other genetics that we're going to go. And I'm sure I'm going to get other crazy ideas as we go through this. And go to MJ BizCon, just scouring, trying all those booths, and spend, you know, literally me and Zohar are probably the best students there. Spend day 1, day 2, day 3 on the show floor the full fucking day. Like,
wow.
Just writing down notes and writing down things that we got to do.
Well, that's what Michael Elkin was saying. That's what he said. That's why he goes down to those U.S. events. A lot of people are like, oh, why would I go to U.S. events? It makes no sense. But you're going down there to do market research. That's exactly what you're doing. What's popular, what's new down there that's not happening in Canada, and bringing that stuff back, right?
Absolutely. And improving it too, right?
What products, you don't have to name a brand, but what product right now in market is the biggest hype bullshit that you've seen yet? Like the one that you're like, what the fuck? Like, is this... Like, what are they even thinking? Again, you don't need to name a brand.
Melted diamonds.
What's that?
Melted diamonds.
Melted diamond. What is
exactly? Melted diamonds, and it's horrible in the U.S., man. It's horrible in the U.S., and they're taking the trend and they're bringing it here. Would we all agree as laymen's that melted diamonds versus distillate, you would choose melted diamonds?
Oh, most likely.
Well, it's the same product.
Oh,
Got it.
So it's just, you know, unfortunately they came up with a creative term, because diamonds is technically 99% THCA.
Right.
Distillate is technically 99% THCA. So if I take a diamond and I melt it and it turns into liquid, it looks like distillate, technically the same on paper scientifically as distillate.
yeah. So they're just trying to sell through
process
shit.
and the quality and all the hidden. I mean, there's things that go beyond terpenes and THC. There's flavonoids and all these things that we haven't discovered yet. And you know, just through trial, I can tell you that a melted diamond is nowhere near a live resin diamond from my Cuban links. Like, I can still taste my Cuban links, because the diamond's not pure. It's a diamond, but it's been sitting in terp sauce for its whole life.
Yeah.
And then, you know, coming out and then getting put into a jar, right? Versus a distillate where everything's extracted and there's nothing left, and you just get the isolate, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, melted diamonds. Like, I mean, I got played in the US just recently. I had 10 vape carts on the table. I'm like, I want your best live resin cart. Like, I want to see what's comparable to my tribal, you know? And it was a brand right there, read back to every fine print on there, said pure live resin, no distillate, no added flavors, no nothing. And it's a big brand, like bigger than us. And I took one puff and I'm like, dude, like, come on, like, how is this even possible? How is it legal?
Yeah.
Like, someone needs to get arrested here. So
Could you tell immediately was not live resin?
absolutely. And fake terps in it.
How
too.
are they getting?
Like,
how are they
it's
getting
just
away with
hit.
that?
Like, what?
How are they getting away with that? Like, you know,
There's
US
no
versus
regulation. I mean, technically, there's no Well, what's stopping from a company in Canada even calling live resin, other than until Health Canada traces the batch record and sees that it's they used a distillate process, and like that takes a while.
And they're not going to do that unless they get complaints about it. Like,
exactly, and you have to be pretty big for them to look into it. So you're gonna get these little guys that come in and try to play the game, and melted diamonds, live resin, call it, and you know, and then, but you're not going to win the consumer over. Like, consumer's going to get educated, and I'm taking it on to make sure the consumer's educated. 'Cause
someone needs to.
10 years ago, I would have believed the trend. I would have been like, melted diamonds, I would have liked it. But then when someone gave me a true live resin, if I've never tried a live resin, I wouldn't know that was there, it ever existed, and those flavors are even possible in a vape cart.
Yeah. So in the world of marketing, when it comes to, I got my Apple, which I love. Is this passion? Is this a passion project? Is it, we need to make sure that our name is synonymous with this consumption method? What was the idea behind this? Because I can't imagine that, you're in the black constantly with this one. I don't know. Maybe you are. I'm not sure. I know they were sold out for a while, quite a few locations, but
Yeah, so that's part of my $0 marketing spend strategy,
okay.
which is it's building an ecosystem for the brands and consumers. So I'm a grower. I want to sell cannabis. I want to make money off my cannabis fairly and give the best value proposition where my consumers are happy and we're happy.
Yeah.
Now I get this consumer in cannabis. How do I create an ecosystem to give them other benefits and bypass all this noise when I walk into go for an accessory? If I thought cannabis was hard, finding a right accessory to consume cannabis is equally as hard or double as hard, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many vape batteries and this and that, and going through learning what voltages are, wattages, and how to smoke hash with hot knives and plastic bottles and
Dab rigs yeah, so many, man.
all this stuff, right? So as a consumer, I knew that in order to enjoy weed properly, you need accessories in each of those categories, being a dried flower if you're on a pipe to go, or a dried herb vaporizer, or if you're a rosin smoker with a dab rig, an e-rig, or a glass rig, if you're a resin smoker, a vape cart user with your battery, an old school hash smoker, whatever category that I play in, I want to make sure that I have the right accessory in, but I'm not trying to build a business out of accessories.
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm passing whatever benefit that I have in my accessory business to ultimately the consumers, so that they can be part of our ecosystem and buy more weed to enjoy the accessories and buy more weed and buy our weed, right?
Yeah.
So really that's our strategy. And it's creating like, again, for accessories, they have to, I have an open protocol for anyone out in the whole industry saying, show me a product that I like, that I will consume, that I will put into my daily habitual of smoking, i.e. a dab rig, a battery, a Happle or whatever. So Dave Rowe, Instagram, one day scrolling through Instagram, I see a Happle. I never saw it before. I'm making old school hash. I know people smoke with hot knives, smoke with a little thing. No real good way to smoke and really enjoy hash.
Yeah.
Saw that on Instagram, called them up, said, can you send me a sample? Sent me a sample, tried it. I was like, holy fuck, this is the best way I've smoked hash.
awesome.
It's a game changer.
Said, I'll buy everything you have exclusively. Don't deal with your marketing, retail.
Yeah.
Whatever you're selling before, I'll buy it. I'll make 5% on it, 2%, whatever it is, as long as it's $0 marketing. And I'm just an intermediary to not take that cut and get it directly to the consumer, right?
Right.
And give that benefit to our consumers. So that's in accessories, our vape batteries that we do. I just created a banger, a glass banger.
Oh, that's
Boron Beyond,
banger,
right?
the card cap, the turf pearls, because you always have to buy it separately.
Yeah.
Everything's all coated, and I designed it after I have probably 100 bangers over here, after the best cleaning way, and the way the bottom's opaque for heat retention versus the side, so that you can time your side and your bottom equally. So I just put a lot of thought in that. We're launching a vape, dry herb vaporizer.
Oh, cool.
Going into what I'm really working on, I just haven't found the right tool yet, is a dab rig, an e-rig. It has to be better than a Puffco, and it has to be half the price.
Wow.
So that's a challenge for me, but I will eventually get to it and try to figure out how to, because there's Puffco. I love Puffco. That's what I use when I'm not using the dab rig, but the cleaning of it, the maintenance of it, it's a hassle, right? And you still have to bring your bottle of water and your whole kit and this and that.
Yeah.
Like it's not, it's the best out there, but I want to create something better. So it's a side project, it's a side hustle, and at night, and I get these ideas, and then what I like is I have the team, I have the suppliers to execute ideas that I have. So that's really the accessory side of things, and also my third pillar, is fashion, like clothing and accessory, like clothing. I think, as consumers, if I can buy, we can make clothing, high quality clothing that you would buy in store, a $200 sweater, okay, of a Nike, Adidas brand or whatever, high quality, their higher fashion one, $200. That sweater, and I bought so much swag, cost $10 to $15 to make,
Right.
$20 to make.
Yeah. Which is evidenced through Cannara shop.
Right. So if I can make the same quality clothing and sell it for $29.99 or sell it for, you know, like make no money on it, just $0 marketing.
Yeah.
Put a little nice, this to me looks like, put a little nice logo, not cannabis. For tribal, for Nugs, it's totally different style,
Sure.
more in your face, but everyday wear under tribal that you can just go to and know that you're getting a highest quality shirt for $20. You're getting a hat for under $20 that any other retailer would charge you $49.99, $59.99.
Yeah.
And now you're part of the ecosystem. We're passing that benefit to you, right?
Right.
So that's what we're trying, because at the end of the day, I just want to make good weed, and I want people to smoke our good weed. And how do I get people excited about good weed and that ecosystem events as well, and making sure we're the biggest, and we're catering to it. Eventually, we'll get into, you know, exclusive events for the industry that we're running, and that, you know, where we have these dinners and these parties and these things that eventually, when we have more time, we can get to.
Yeah.
But,
I was gonna say, where do you get time? But you know,
Yeah.
I think it's been smart on the accessory side, but also the swag side of things, right? Because so many, you get this. I mean, you've got a you know, marketing background as well, and cut your teeth obviously with the work you've been doing with Cannara, but you know, that customer journey, taking them from awareness to advocate. The advocate is the one that's like, yeah, I love this brand. I imbibe it. I can get behind it. And then, you know, because the skate decks, right? I've seen numerous times the various Nugs skate decks, and those are just cool. Are people going to ride them? Well, maybe they can throw some trucks on and do whatever they want, some wheels. But as a consumer, you know, because now you're skipping, right? You're skipping over into that side that you really want. You want them to be advocates and saying, what are you trying? Oh, you should try Tribal. You should try Nugs. You should try Orchid. It seems that you've managed to build that ecosystem very well, where, you know, you are including the bud tenders and the retailers, right? But you're also speaking to the consumers at their level where they are, which is important, but also not easy. But it seems that you've kind of cracked the code on that enough that it's making a difference, right? Where do you get excited about the future of the industry right now? What are you seeing as, because you guys are always innovating. I mean, it's evident, right? You're always doing whatever you can. What categories? I know you're talking about when milligrams increases, like, is there any area or maybe new product development category that you get excited about, or are they kind of just stagnated right now? What are your thoughts?
So I mean, definitely like the infused pre-roll line of our trifectas, that has a lot of different SKUs to go under.
Yeah.
As we launch new genetics, there's new trifectas that come out. The all-in-one under Tribal, super excited about that one. Had a vision, executed it to the T. So I'm super excited to see that one coming out. Like you said before, beverages and edibles, when they go out, rosin category will continue increasing as I hunt new genetics. For me, product innovation is all stemmed by new genetics. It's like, is there a category that's untapped now that I can think, a new category that we haven't played in yet? No, I don't think so at this point in time, but I know that opportunities will come. And just alone in the current many categories I'm in, which is pretty much everything. I know with the new genetics that just finding these unicorns, they just keep going, and I get edibles of that, I get beverages of that, I get live resin vape carts, I get cured resin vape carts, I get pre-rolls, I get infused pre-rolls, I get grind, I get small bags of flour, I get 28 grams of flour. So usually there's like one genetic gives me about 20 to 30 different SKUs, and that's why I have a lot of SKUs, but like one genetic I can do a lot with, right?
Well, you have the footprint to keep up, right? And that's, I think that's key. So touch on that. And then I want to ask you, like, in the acquisition, right? Because you went from, I forget what you had shared, but huge. How big is the facility?
It's, we have two facilities. So we went from, it was 170,000 square footer that we had first within a 625,000 square foot building. Yeah. So still a really big building, but we only had built out 170 of it. And then we bought the Green Organic Dutchman's Valleyfield facility that they built for $300 million. It's like the Ferrari of cannabis facilities. This was built.
I compare that to Can Trust facility, but the Valley Field, because they were customers of ours at Ample, right? When
Okay.
like T-God was launching and they're expanding and they're here, and we're like, holy shit, like what are you doing in Quebec? But anyway, so then you guys, so they spent
good for
300
them.
million? Is that what they spent? 300 million?
300 million back in 2019. We bought it for 27. So we bought it for 10 cents on the dollar.
Fuck. Wow.
Yeah, and to build that thing today is 350.
Wow. And how big is it?
It's 1 million square feet.
Million square feet. Wow. And have you taken it all over now?
Yeah, so we're about so the main Bay Area is 600,000 square feet. That's divided into 24 rooms, 25,000 square feet each room. We could put about 10,000 plants in each room. Each room makes me about $10 million a year. So you can just go 10 times 24 when we get there.
Yeah.
And that's after excise tax. That's like net revenue.
Jesus.
We're on room 10 right now, and we're on track for over $100 million. So our math is very simple.
Shareholders should be happy.
Our math is very simple. It just turn on, at this point, is copy paste a room, $10 million increase in revenue. I'm making 35-40% gross margin on it. I don't have the heavy fixed cost. You're seeing net income on the bottom line. You're seeing operating cash flow. Mm-hmm. So all I got to do is copy paste from rooms 10 to 24. We're doing 2 rooms this year. Going to do 4 rooms, 5 rooms the year after, and then complete the project.
Wow.
In 3 years' time.
Dude, that's not unlike MMAR grows or the Legacy grows, right? So we would start with a single room, 500 plants, 1,000 plants, get it dialed in, it's working, looks good, build another room. Room. How much is this producing? Okay, great. How many pounds per light can we get? Great. What can we do in the next one? Turn it on, bake the room, continue, repeat. And in the Legacy days, that was a formula for success. So it seems that other companies are just overcomplicating things and trying to, they're not really looking at one, because everything from, this conversation, what I know about Cannara is it's based on genetics. How well it will perform. Am I getting the yield? Am I getting the consistency? Right. And then repeating that. But I mean, like where do you stop? Is there a limit? Like, can you stop it where you're like, oh shit, this is just out of control? Because with each room, obviously more staff, right? Is it getting challenging to find staff?
We think so, but to turn on a more room, I need 3 more heads to turn on.
Right. You're just rotating them through, right? Yeah.
We've achieved those economies of scale right now.
Nice.
Where planting another room, you don't need a whole new infrastructure. Mm-hmm. It's just night shifts or evening shifts or weekend shifts, and we're gonna add more heads on the post-harvest side and the packaging side, but that's in line with increase in revenues. But in terms of growing style, there's not many more heads to turn on more rooms. Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're planting and defoliating. Well, I mean, you get to certain scales, you're doing it every day, but at the same time, I mean, you're rotating it through. It's operational. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have definitely achieved the economies of scale and continue to do so as we grow. But we treat it exactly like that. Like, it's room by room. We got turn on a room, check. Okay, we got a new genetic, turn on a room. The problem, I think, where it's a bit different nowadays is on the sell side, where unless you're going to go B2B and you're going to bulk sell and just give bags and bags of kilos of weed and get that off your shelf, then sure. But if you're trying to build a retail business, which everyone was trying to do, you got to get those SKUs in the store. You got to create the packaging. You got to create you got to get the NCP. You got to pay your Health Canada tax. So there's a lot of ancillary things, and you can't just throw SKUs. You're creating a SKU and you don't know if you're going to get it listed or not.
Right.
And then do you grow it? And then once you get it listed, you have 2 months to deliver, but you haven't grown it yet. So there's all these mechanics that go into play on the other side, rather than just back, in the day, getting a bag of weed, taking a big bag, putting in a couple of smaller bags and calling it a day and selling that off. There's a lot more complex. So if you invested in your production and scaled way too quickly, and you didn't scale your sales side, and your products weren't aligned in the quality of products, and you didn't have the genetics on all that, well, you're not going to win on this side.
Right.
This is a constraint, right? So everyone grew too much. This was the constraint. They had all this cannabis. Now everything fell apart. So now there's there's not enough weed right now in Canada, good quality weed.
Yeah.
And yeah, now as time goes by and you build your portfolio, well, that constraint gets easier and easier because you're creating relationships with the government. They know your product. They know yourself through an existing product. So now you can get that engine turning. So you need that time. You absolutely need that time to get that product portfolio built.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to get a listing and you're going to throw 200 darts at that listing, get 50, and then drive to make those 50, you're going to, you know, that's how everyone did it. You're going to fail. So we did it slower where we're shooting a lot less, but we're waiting until that we didn't overproduce. If I overproduced, then I would be in that position
for sure.
where I had to throw many more SKUs. And if I, you know, depending on your knowledge of the SKUs and how well your value prop on them, there's so many factors in all that. Because I did throw a lot more last year, but I had a higher success rate because we actually knew and created the products, and quality and consistency of the products actually followed through.
Got it. You're not doing any export right now, are you? No. So everything you're producing is going into your SKUs, which is going to distribution in Canada. Are there any provinces or territories you're not in?
Most of the East Coast, Nova Scotia with like one SKU.
Okay.
Other than Quebec, so all East Coast.
Is it tough to penetrate there, or are you just not seeing the market for it, or?
We don't have the cannabis for it. Like when we go into a market.
so you will be. You just.
We will be. Yeah. It's a lever for growth. It's just that we are. I don't want to even tell you how much orders I shorted in December because we just didn't have the cannabis available for it. Right.
Yeah.
So so we're just trying to get ahead, you know, the machine stabilized. And
dude, that's
so
impressive though. At your scale, how impressive that is that you can barely keep up in Canada, because we know of so many different LPs that it's almost scattered. They're all over the place, right? And they've got distribution here, and you question, like, why are you even in that province in particular? But you're also exporting. And why are you exporting when you can't even keep up with demand, or vice versa, right? You're not servicing this market, but you're trying to service the other. Let me ask you about, what are your thoughts on the rollout of vapes, the potential in Quebec and the limits? Like, does this make sense? Does it? I don't know, man. I'm not in Quebec. I'm not at 30. I'm not even really the vape guy, right? Thoughts?
Challenge accepted for me. I mean, this is the biggest opportunity for me. I know I'm not going to be able to change the 30% into 70%, so I'm not going to go cry, all night long on that. Would I like a 80, 90% vape cart live resin tribal? Sure. But I know that I hate distillate. I know that I hate CBD isolate. I know that I have a challenge to make a 30% THC cart. So I'm working on something that really changes that perception and gets us close to what I believe a live resin cart is in that 30% range.
Interesting. And
if I nail it, Quebec's gonna, appreciate it, and the sales are gonna fly, and I'm really excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, we've heard this quite a bit, and we've seen it as well. Is that Quebec-based LPs, they have success in their own market, right? And I would assume that Cannara does as well with the portfolio of brands. So it would seem to me that it would be arms wide open, because if anyone's going to nail it, it'll be you guys for sure. Where do you get excited about the future of the industry? What's leave us with something positive. Where is it going to be? I mean, Excise was in the, at least being considered. I don't know how much that affects your business. I mean, I'm not an operator, right? But going to a single source, excise stamp, obviously it makes sense, right? But what other areas of the industry are you getting excited about?
Yeah, I think that excise, it's going to improve some efficiencies. It's not going to make or break a company, but it's going to help. It's going to help operationally just be able to meet orders, and not juggle. For me, what gets excited is just being in this and seeing this through, man. Like I said to all my employees here, I'm dying with this company. You're gonna have to put me up the chair. All these are babies that I created, right? All these products are love and passion, and these brands is all me and the team that we've really, really worked hard to do. So for me, what gets me most excited is just seeing our company flourish, right? And seeing people enjoy the brands and seeing the feedback. Like I go on Reddit still every day, not all the emails I have and everything I'm doing, I still manage to find myself going on Reddit and just finding all my reviews. I see a review once a day and seeing people and the positive feedback. And if there's a negative feedback, I'll reach out personally to that customer. I'll say, hey man, let me make it right for you. What was wrong? Let me understand. Let me go back to the grow, see what's happened or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that's what just gets me excited, is to see what we are going to be in, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now.
Well,
And my goal is to make the cannabis industry successful, right? And like consumers proud of Canada to be part of this. Like you go to the US, like if you think people are getting screwed over here in terms of products and pricing and all that, like the US is the wild, wild west. Like you're paying 60, 70 US dollars for a 3.5 and you're getting quality that we find here for $20, you know? So we have the framework, like we have the there's dispensaries everywhere. We have the framework to really create something really cool for cannabis and brands that really work. So I want to see all the micros and all the legacy guys or whoever's putting their work and effort and have their grow just take their niche on and grow and flourish. And right now they're competing against people that shouldn't be there, right? And that makes it challenging for them. So hopefully the ones that shouldn't be in our industry are no longer here. Then there's good quality micros and mid tiers and low tiers, and those guys come in and there's room for them and they flourish, and there's and customers just get good quality product at amazing prices across the board. They have it across the tier.
I love
so
that. There's something we learned from Dave Bow last week. So we had Dave and Alex on, and David said, he goes, well, Alex taught me something. He said, there's no such thing as bad weed. And I'm like, what? And he goes, there's just really badly priced weed. I'm like, okay, I guess. And when you look at it like that, and speaking, kudos to you. I mean, most CFO types or executives at any of these cannabis companies will not spend any amount of time in Reddits or subreddits. There's just no way. They can't handle the truth, right? At the end of the day, they just can't. So kudos, because I hear, how many fucking emails have you received since we started recording? There's got to be 150 in there, like just one after another.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So considering the podcast will drop after your investor webinar tomorrow or your shareholder webinar, what is something that you can share from that our audience should know?
About our investor webinar?
Yeah, just about because your earnings update, everything is there now, right?
Yeah.
It's out there. Yeah. But for those that haven't tuned into that,
it's more of a review of our of our fiscal, just making sure that every dollar that I'm making, I have a choice to invest it back in the business and 10x that in a year, or invest it into investor relations and hopefully get eyeballs, right? I really think we're the diamond in the rough. We're focused on operational excellence and operating. And I know in 3 years, markets are efficient. No matter what you do, markets are going to catch up.
Right.
It just takes a couple of people to find the opportunity, and then everyone tags along, right? So I know we're going to get there in 3 years, but what do I do to make sure that we stay relevant and we stay in people's minds? So that's the purpose of that call, is really to make sure that any new investors have an opportunity to hear our story again. I often hear people don't know about our story, right? So it's still not out there. It's still the very beginning of a journey for a public company like us, right?
Yeah.
So the webinar, I'm going to go through just again what Cannara is, what we are, what's our competitive advantages. Give you just a high-level view of our 2024 year-end results and how that compared to last year and all the growth that we're seeing. Share some market share where we are as of November, and it's continuously increasing. And then a big part of that call, I'm going to try not to talk as much, and a big part of that call is just going to be Q&A, where investors can just ask as questions as raw as possible, and I'll give you my answer, because we're trying to be as open and transparent and just really focused on building a platform for cannabis that no one had the chance to build yet.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll just send you a link to this episode, and you can share this. With
Yeah,
them
just go.
and job done.
This is who we are. This is,
yeah.
this is the raw. This is, I'm getting emails over here. I'm podcasting. I'm doing webinars. I can do everything.
That's it.
Listen, man, we appreciate you. We know how busy you are. We know how successful Cannara is and will continue to be. We're just thankful that you were able to find the time to join us and chop it up for, I don't know, hour and a half, whatever it's been. It's just been awesome.
My pleasure, Tom. Tom and Wes, you guys run a great podcast, and anything that I can do to support the industry, that's what I'm trying to do. So I work day and night to make it happen. It's eventually gonna happen, but if I manifest that and
you
just
got it.
keep working towards that, that's hard work will eventually pay off.
You're speaking my language now, man. Just manifest
it
it.
everywhere, and you just got to grind it out and grind it out. If you know in your heart that's what you believe in, and it could be anything in the world. Whatever it is, everyone's going to tell you you can't do it or you can do it, or there's going to be roadblocks and challenges, and that's life. Is just about pushing through all those roadblocks and challenges and not losing focus.
Love it. It's awesome. Thanks, Nick.
No problem. Pleasure, guys. Have a good one.
Breadstack e-commerce. It might be time to upgrade.
Wes, what do you have that's worth $100 million that I can buy for 10 cents on the dollar? Anything?
If I knew that, I'd be on a beach somewhere.
I'm not going to say that is why Cannara is successful by any means. That's them being smart. But at the same time, it's like, sorry, not 100 million, 300
million. But here, you mentioned just then, that's not why you think they're successful. And I agree with you. I think something that I didn't hear at all during that entire thing was Nico complaining about regulation roadblocks and stuff. Like they obviously exist for him too. Like it's not unique to, but not once did I hear him complain about that at all. He's taking that stuff, working within those those boundaries, and like look at the Quebec thing, using that seeing that more as an opportunity,
challenge accepted,
rather than yeah. So I think that's and again, it's not to to disqualify anything or anyone who sees issues with those regulations. We see issues with those regulations, but he just has a perspective that's like, okay, fuck it, they're here, but I have to do what I can within them. And the fact that he's doing so well, or they are doing so well in that realm, is a testament, man. And I think a lot of people need to take notice. Across Canada, I think unanimously, the vast majority of the industry or those investing into the industry look at Cannara as that beacon. They're like, yeah, they've figured it out. They've cracked the code. And a lot of it, again, born from genetics, but you can tell there's just passion. There is 100% passion and heart in what they're doing. And again, you don't hear stock watch pundits talking much about cannabis stocks. So when they say, included in a portfolio that would have your blue chips and all these other ones, go, here's one, Cannara, it's at this price. We can see this happening. Like that's pretty massive. It's also, I think it's important to mention to the audience too, like for those of you who are adamant and wearing those, fuck corporate cannabis shirts and stuff like that, really ask you to really think hard about, what is the definition of corporate on those shirts? Like what does that mean? Because by all definition, we just spoke to someone who's corporate. Like that's huge facilities, well, technically they huge all setup, are, but yeah. But and all these small guys, don't kid yourself, are working to get to a level where they're earning the revenues that Nico and those guys are earning, right? So it's not fuck corporate just because they're a certain size or earning a certain amount of revenue. That's where everyone's trying to get. It's you got to reevaluate that on what that means when you wear those shirts. You know? Well, and I think that, for them to understand the other side, right? So one in product development and good genetics and good product quality, but also, the ramp up. So if we're going to turn a room on, he's talking, I forget how many plants in a room, 10,000 plants or something in a room. 10,000 per room. So you're going to know your yields, you're going to know your harvest. You need to understand, okay, I'm going to have this product now. I've got to sell it. Right. It's the same in tech, right? In tech, we look at, okay, you're building this, you're going to do this, you're going to ramp up these teams, you got to have support in place, your release cycles, all these things. At some point, you need a sales team. You need to ensure that you're going to get adoption of that product or platform that you're buying. And this is across pretty much every single industry. We see it a lot in CPG, which is expectations, right? They could be handshake deals or nods, verbal agreements, but until you get those POs, you don't know what you're going to need to deliver on. And they've spent a ton of time building out those sales teams and those individuals to be ensuring that they're getting distribution. It's one of those ones that I love to watch. Obviously,
great products, supporter of the old school hash. I love the Happle. Dave, great job on the Happle as well, by the way. But, outside of that, I think that when you speak to Nico, you see, to your point, Wes, is it's not doom and gloom. It's not, oh, this is a challenge. I'm not using this as my crutch or my inability to perform or succeed. It's this is what I have to deal with. This is how I'm going to deal with it. And challenge accepted, right?
Yep.
Anyways, great episode. Two fabulous guests with a ton of knowledge. The amount of knowledge, man, that we bring in, and we get a couple hours of it. I feel smarter sometimes.
Yeah. And I'll give everyone a quick reminder to keep an eye out for the holiday episode. That's going to drop on Christmas Eve. So we'll drop that. We visited the sensory room over at Joint Crafts, so we'll have guests John Prentice and Andrew over there from Minister Sativa. So it's going to be a great episode. So keep an eye out for that on Christmas Eve.
If you get it edited.
Oh, it will. The cut is done. There's a lot of other, all the other stuff.
Yeah, all your lower thirds. You guys don't have any idea what goes into making these. Wes knows all too well. Anyways, we appreciate you, man, because this is how it gets out there. But anyways, thanks for tuning in to Legacies, everyone. We'll see you for our holiday special. And then in the new year, we've got something special planned for you too.